forgot it. The Board of Trustees meeting for August 21st, 2023, 7 p.m. Let's all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Trapp, could you please call the roll?
Here.
Edwards. Fowler. Kerr.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Rosso. Here. President Poznanski.
Here.
We have 5 present.
Okay, let's move into our agenda. Do we have an approval of the agenda or any changes?
If I could add for, obviously, a discussion only, use of public sidewalks.
You want new business all the way at the end?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, J.
Use of public sidewalks.
Better late than never. Welcome. Do we have anything else, or do we have an agenda?
I know I'm late, sorry to be late. I'd like to add to the agenda, as far as,
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's already added, the Romeo Cemetery and the retention pond.
Nope. Do you want K under new business?
Under unfinished, because last month I asked the clerk to look into it.
Okay, so we'll do F. We'll do cemetery,
Cemetery.
retention pond.
And one more. To reconsider vote on the Sisson Street property from a park to a sale.
Under,
property?
we'll do that under unfinished for sure. E, F,
Okay.
G.
G.
Okay, do we have an agenda? I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the additions.
So moved with those additions.
Second?
Motion by Bartholomew, second by Fowler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. We have an agenda. Moving into our approval of our minutes, we have our July 17th meeting, 2023. Do we have anything there, or do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve July 7th.
Support. 17th.
Yep. Sorry. Motion by Fowler, second by Bartholomew. Approving minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can I recuse? I wasn't here.
No.
You can, but you don't have to.
I wasn't here to review the minutes, so.
A trustee can only abstain if there's a conflict of interest due to the vote that they might cast on the agenda item.
You don't have to.
So nay.
No.
Okay, so
Okay,
you vote
one
nay.
opposed. Motion passes. We're in our approval of our bills. Do we have,
Motion to approve the bills.
Second?
okay, motion to approve the bills by Bartholomew, second by Fowler.
A couple questions, if possible. Maggio Enterprises on the check registry, Moggio, probably didn't pronounce that right. Just wondering where that fell. I didn't see it come up anywhere.
How far down are you?
First page, right there, above Pamela Sue.
8/10/23.
Yeah, two above our light.
For the 1708?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, Catherine?
Yes, he is our consultant that we have brought on to help with the water rate changeover in our BSNA system.
I have a question. There were, or there are several small amounts made out to people specifically. So, and names that I haven't seen before. There's a Jason, a John, Amy, Heather, another Heather.
Well, Heather for sure is our cleaning
Oh,
lady.
she's the cleaning lady, yep. So the other ones,
Jason Zurich is one of our DPW members, and that was a mileage reimbursement and/or conference reimbursement.
okay,
Yep, okay.
okay. So is that the same for like John and Amy?
Where's Amy?
Amy's below John, July 27.
$12.98.
So Kana.
That is, I did not approve that. She is a water bill user from Washington Township. I don't know if it had to do with the water bills.
Yeah, that would be treasurer.
That would be a treasurer question.
Not present.
She's not present, is she?
No.
So can we get an answer to that?
Yes, I'll have to,
All right.
and same with John Couch. That's not a village resident. That did not come across my desk, so I do not know how it was made an approved expenditure.
Okay. How about Matthew Dowd? A little bit farther down for 360?
He is the owner of Dairy Queen on Main Street, and that is his cost share for, he repaired his own sidewalks.
On these individual names, can we have like where they are, where they're from, address, or the business that follows them, their names?
Mhm.
So they can, I see what Trustee Russo is getting at as far as just seeing a name on a pay voucher, but nothing else. No identification of where they're from or indicating what they do. I see a lot of single names.
Okay.
I mean, like, I know Ron White, but I know it's his landscaping company.
That's his landscape.
Right, there's
so-
some that we often see, like
Yeah,
Heather
so
and Pamela.
I mean, just a little more description here
Okay.
would be helpful.
I think that was,
Second page, purchase power. Very first one, second page.
Gotcha.
Purchase power, is that? Can't recall. I don't have that in front of me. I would have to get that back to you, and that must be. Purchase power, no, that's not our credit card vendor, so I'd have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, just email to the board, I guess would be fine.
Okay.
The Evo QA, is that the work done out there? Yeah, Vilca, I don't know. And then is that Titus Welding? Okay.
They're the ones, they had that, the gearbox.
Yeah, I remember. I just wanted to verify in my, awesome. The other question I had on this, is it possible to get, if it's the individual bills or the breakdown with this on the DTE? I just see where, I mean, I know energy's expensive, but if we could see some type of breakdown of where each individual price is going, like if we could just get a copy of the bills included with this?
Do you want that monthly? Because there's like 10 different accounts that we pay.
I'd like to review it, at least for the next couple of months or something, just to get an idea where
Okay, I
it's
can email
flowing.
that over.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Because there's multiple invoices that we get throughout the month.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So if you look on our check register report, a lot of that,
there you go.
the ports speak to each other. So like next to Evoquus is the gearbox.
Yeah, I'd like
Um,
to see the actual
Yeah.
breakdown on the bills, that's all. Not so much where they're,
Well,
what
no,
department they're going to.
but it tells you next to it, it said gearbox, so it tells you kind of a little bit what
Mhm.
you're asking for.
There's descriptions on there.
Yeah.
Not saying all of them, but
Oh,
some of it
yeah,
does.
that's why I was just verifying.
Yeah. Okay, we had a motion and support for the bills. Do we have any more discussion? Okay, Catherine, can you call the roll?
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes,
Parker,
Yes,
President Poznanski,
Yes.
Rosso?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
Motion carried 5-0.
Does the amount have to be in that motion?
We can, we generally speak it.
Okay.
I can add it to the minutes.
Yeah, the bills are in the amount of $103,772.86 and $875,384.71.
Thank you.
We have no special presentation and no correspondence. That moves us into our public comment. This is your time to speak as the public. There will be no commenting further on past this point. You have 3 minutes. Step up if you'd like to have a public comment. I'm going to take that as no public comment. Okay, we'll move on to our reports. Well, guess we'll start at your end.
Okay.
If you're ready.
Yep, I got a small one. The cemetery board was not able to meet in early August because of the bid package for the road proposal update was not complete. This should be done soon, and we will have a prompt meeting with the cemetery board as soon as we get that this week, hopefully. The cemetery board would like to reiterate to the Board of Trustees and to the residents that their main goal is to repair the roads. Then they will look into expansion. Had a conference call with AT&T about the high cost of the phone lines that need to be closed down and off the books. I have also sent over to AT&T the complete matrix of what phone lines have been ported over to the VoIP. There were more email communications between us and them today in regards to closing these accounts. And audit prep work is still ongoing with our accountants at Plant Moran for our audit to begin promptly in October, on October 16th. That is all I have for this month.
Okay, I guess I'll move in and we'll keep it us and then do trustees. Treasurer is not here, nor was a report submitted. Not too long. Starting off with our very obvious one, our roads construction. Phase 1 and 2 are set to finish up here in about a week. Our awesome construction company has multiple teams out at a time and working last week and this week. They will be doing 7 days a week to make this happen and get accomplished. This will leave us just enough time to get the striping around Village Park put down before Peach Fest, which is, the striping is set for next Tuesday, the 29th, and they are well aware of that timeline there. Today I walked Phase 3 with Tim Metz and our site supervisor, double checking all the curbs that need to be taken out. This moving into Phase 3 will shortly be done after Labor Day, and the residents will receive a flyer as construction gets closer there to make them aware of everything that's going to be going on. With the striping, we had the striping take place after last month's meeting. Was able to get everything done in those 2 evenings. It looks great, with the exception of coming back, obviously, to do the remainder around the park. Now, not in the bid was, because this is fresh street, it's going to take a little extra to lay down and put out all the put the lines back, because it's not just following over what was there. So we're going to see some more bills that way that weren't part of the encompass in the quote, because that just slipped my mind and everybody's mind. So we will see that again. With the pension grant, remember when we all had that special meeting for the 2 grants that we tried for? We at least got one back. On July 28th, I received a confirmation letter in which the State of Michigan Department of Treasury notified us that the village was awarded the full amount of $129,167 for the pension grant we applied for. This is very exciting news and means that the village will be saved the $129,167 overall in the funding of the village pension liability. Around Village Hall, I just wanted to make the trustees aware and bring everyone up to date. We've had 2 quotes come in so far regarding the Village Hall and the restoration work with the building, specifically to do with the brickwork. At this time, I just wanted to let you guys know that the board may be needing to make some budget amendments in that area if we're going to be getting all the work done within this fiscal year. So we have this, just with the brickwork and the quotes coming in, will probably take up what we set aside or budgeted for the year. And our windows, the glazing is just falling out of the glass. So those cannot wait much longer. I'm waiting on a company to come in and get a quote on the windows and the glazing. I'm also having Paramount come out and now look at our roof. So we might need to take a little consideration there, or what can wait till next fiscal year kind of thing. I was able to attend the school board meeting on July 24th, where I was able to reiterate some of the residents' concerns regarding the sale of the Prospect Street property. Since that time, we've had our road, Thompson Place, that's the name of our road, surveyed and staked out so as to reiterate the village's ownership and to relieve the burden on the Romeo Community School District or the future developer from having to do that. Was able to attend the Parks and Rec Commission meeting on July 27th. Was able to inform the committee that the village had officially designated the Sisson Street lot as a village park and asked the commission to consider taking the development and care of that under their wing. At that time, the commission made a motion to at least put it on their park development subcommittee. I do not have confirmation that this necessarily means they're taking it on, but they're taking it to that subcommittee for consideration. With Parks and Rec, Clerk Trapp and myself met here to go over which space in this building that they wanted to rent as storage, and we're still looking into the price for square footage and rentals. In regards to village trees, while the weather was good, we had many of our dangerous and diseased trees either taken down or cut back. We'd like to make the residents aware that planting of trees in the easement is not permitted per our village ordinance. With the village park, it's about wrapped up there, and so we have our rededication set for September 17th. Flyers will be coming out. The idea there is just an enjoyable afternoon with a short dedication ceremony followed by music in the park. All are encouraged to attend and bring blankets or lawn chairs, kind of a family picnic, very relaxed, enjoyable of what we have there. With Peach Fest just around the corner, I wanted to pre-thank all of our dedicated staff who consistently take care of our village during this fun and crazy time that we're about to partake of. This last weekend, I was able to attend the Lenox New Haven Historical Society Cornhole Tournament, where I was able to challenge the New Haven president to a game and take the win for Romeo on that one there. I brought it back around asking him if he wanted to take me up on trying to save some face at Peach Fest and see if we could go at it again and see. He's got 2 weeks to do a little work there. I wanted to offer all the trustees. L&L Products is having their expansion ribbon cutting on September 15th at 2 p.m. All are welcome. Wanted to extend that to all the trustees if you're able to make it out. And that is that for me.
So time for the rededication of the September 17th park?
Haven't landed on it yet.
Okay.
Ruth is still out of town. We said at least the 17th. We're going to still, like I said, it's not going to be anything. It's probably going to be noon because it's a Sunday. Let everyone wake up, go to church, do their thing. So I'm thinking a later afternoon. So let's move into trustees. I'm going to start with Nolan.
Yeah, so I started a nonprofit, Miracle on Tilson Street, a few years back, and with school right around the corner, we've been sponsoring any family in the district who needs help struggling with back to school supplies, backpacks. So with about a week left before school starts, if you need any assistance, you can contact Miracle on Tilson at gmail.com, and we'll help you out. That's it.
Trustee Fowler?
There is nothing?
Trustee Parker?
Nothing.
Trustee Rousseau?
Couple quick things. School starts next Monday for the kids, so just a reminder that in the morning for a while it will be dark. Keep an eye out for those high schoolers and other kids that are walking in the streets. Most of the crosswalks look beautifully redone with our bright yellow lines, so hopefully the kids will utilize them, but keep an eye out. And then for the Park Task Force, we have not met since the last meeting. We will be meeting tomorrow evening. That's it.
Just thank you, Nolan, for what you're doing with the thing there. And I think that the Proline Asphalt Company is doing a really good job. I was watching them in the park a couple weeks ago, and a couple of the younger guys started up these blowers and started blowing, and the supervisor came over and said to both of them, now look, the weather's nice, people have windows open, keep an eye on the dust is where it's going. If it's gonna go into their houses, head it in a different direction. So they're being conscientious about things like that. So good job to Proline.
Yeah, no, they're definitely paying attention to the residents. I've told them, Tim's told them, we've all told them, you know, residents are number one, the least amount of inconvenience in this situation as possible. So I agree, they're doing very well. Do you want to move into planning commission?
We didn't meet this month.
Okay. Didn't meet this month? Okay. Into our
Talked
committee
about last
reports. Still waiting on HRC. Mike was supposed to be here. Obviously, he's not, so we don't have a report there. Our fire and ALS, we met, had a little bit of conversation. We're going to need to, obviously, this is going to take us amount of time. We have until next September? Okay, end of August. So we're going to need to continue negotiating that there. Was paid for this year, so there'll be no late fee. Yep. Our Parks and Rec lease, we'll be meeting, that subcommittee is meeting tomorrow evening to start those talks there. So we have nothing else to really report yet there. Yeah, moving into our unfinished business.
So real quick, you
Go
said
ahead.
Mike does have something for the crosswalks now?
No,
He doesn't have anything.
not yet. He was supposed to. That's why he's on here. He's on here in a couple spots. So,
Okay.
okay, so obviously moving in our first unfinished business with the road mills, that was in regards to the mills. We needed 4, we only did 2, trying to see what the project would look like. We'll put that back on again for next month. So we'll move into our,
Oh, may I interrupt with a quick question? I know they're working Saturdays and Sundays. Are we paying a premium rate for that?
it's all in the contract. There's no overtime. It's what it takes to get it done, whether they're here on the weekend or not. Does that answer your question?
Did they build it in knowing they'd be here on the weekend? Do you know?
It's kind of like it takes what it takes to get done, whether you do it in 4 days or 7, you don't get any extra either way.
Okay.
Does that make, am I making any sense?
I think they're just
It
taking it
is.
upon themselves to do the
That-
weekends, and they're gonna pay the
Yeah.
employees probably double, or
That's
whatever.
where
And that's
wanted
on
to
them.
know.
That's not
That's
on
on
us in our
Yeah.
contract.
Okay.
But it's nice to see them doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they've asked me a couple times. I said, absolutely, you can no sooner than 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can be here as much as you need to get this done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving into our garbage RFP. We had 3 quotes. I don't know, Clerk Trap, do you want to take it away? You really built it and did all the work there.
In the RFP, it's the breakdown is the big giant page that they all had the same, they all had these required documents that they had to fill out within the RFP, and those are, I'm just destroying everything tonight. This is the breakdown of all their quotes and for the multiple areas of the RFP. Now, the Central Business District, again, those are just quotes that we were getting just to see what was going on. And the dumpsters in the Central Business District, I apologize, President Poznanski, were you able to attach those to? Okay.
The next couple
But
pages.
otherwise, that, everything else is, these are all their numbers that they gave us in the binders. These were the only 3, and these were the same 3 suspects as, same 3 contenders as last time, sorry.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the Central Business District's waste disposal is tied in with the residential?
No.
single-family? So there's 3 separate.
What do you mean by 3 separate?
Well, you have the residential,
Yep,
single family, then you have Central Business District,
okay.
then you have the industrial.
We do not have the industrial on here.
Well, that's the way it's written up here in the scope of work. It says residential, commercial, and industrial.
Okay, well, but in the actual bid, are you familiar with the bid packet that went out?
I'm looking at what you sent us.
Okay, but in the bid packet that went out, these were the main items that they were asked to fill out, and this is all that they submitted to us.
Okay, so the scope of work should have been altered not to mention the certain area.
Well, that line in the board packet should have been edited, but they did not receive any information in regards to giving us prices for the industrial.
Mr. Clark, can I ask you a question? So since it says this in the scope of work, the industrial is mentioned, is there any liability, I mean, for us, because we actually put it out there in writing? I mean, I'm just looking at this.
No, because you have the ability to reject any bid or all bids, or, so no, there's no liability. And if I understand the spreadsheet, which I may not, if I understand the spreadsheet.
Can you turn on your microphone?
Thank you.
Oh, darn, I don't
Yes,
like to.
we would like to hear you.
If I understand the spreadsheet, which I may not, but in looking at the spreadsheet, and then also what I will call explanatory materials submitted by each entity, GFL, Waste Management, and Priority, I don't think there is any, I see nothing where any of the bidders expects to pick up or be paid for picking up in the industrial area.
Correct.
Okay. I might have missed that. And if so, nevertheless, if there's no liability there on the part of the village, you can accept or reject the bids or any one of them.
Thank you, I'm just going by the words that I'm reading here.
Well, this is the same bid package that we did the last time, I believe, which was in 2019.
We'll make sure that we edit industrial out for the next time.
Sure. So this is the breakdown of everything they can offer that they have submitted.
So
That was my
our,
other, oh, go
can
ahead,
I
Sarah.
can I ask one more
No,
question?
Go ahead.
So our vote tonight will include the residential and the central business district?
No, it doesn't have to. That's up to you how you make the motion. It's just been priced out just for the sake
Yeah,
of, there's
it
been
can.
interest.
This is à la carte. You can
So we can
pick.
separate
yep.
Correct, that's
And
why it's all
why-
separated
right.
out as
Okay.
such.
That's why there's dumpsters or carts or residential or CBD. It's kind of
Okay.
pick or choose.
Mm-hmm.
Really based off of, you reflect on our budget.
And this was a 5-year also last time? Is that?
Yes, it was, and this is a 5-year also.
Okay, that's right.
That was outlined also in the bid packet. If you need a copy of the bid packet of all the information that was sent to, that was posted on BidNet Direct, I can email that out.
Did any of them provide references?
Those
Yes,
would be in the binders.
they all did. They each sent in huge folders.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled out things that I thought would, at least I could line up, that each had
Yeah.
samesies to give you the same sort of information.
Okay.
But they all did pages on page, like.
That
some
was
of
a
them had
requirement.
3 or 4
Yeah, I
pages of
saw.
references, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
If we stay with the same waste management company, then that's fine, but if we have to,
GFL.
GFL.
if we have,
Okay.
if we have to go with a different company, the residents won't have to buy different garbage cans again, will they? I mean, they had to pay for the last ones. when we-
Not necessarily. That's some of the information I did include in here,
Mhm.
Okay.
speaking to how it would be brought about,
All right.
does not necessarily mean that.
Right, because that was one of the addendums that was asked that I added to the
Okay, great.
bid, that it's up to the
Thank you.
discretion of the carrier.
Currently, our current contract covers residential pickup for trash, recycling, and the apartments and multifamily?
Yes.
Does not necessarily mean that the apartments and multifamily are picked up, though. If they so choose to have a corral, that is their choice. It doesn't mean that we don't offer it to them. It means that they don't want 20 roll carts on their property, or Apple Valley doesn't want hundreds of roll carts, so they choose to have a centralized dumpster, which they then charge their residents.
So apartments, multi-unit, that includes condos? Or no?
Yeah, with
Mhm,
like
yes.
Sisson
I'm
and,
just-
yeah. mhm.
So we all,
Prospect.
So what's everybody thinking here?
I like the service that our current contractor's been giving us. I think they do a good job.
I would agree. I just, the price difference with waste management is,
It's big.
it's a large amount. And that's who we had prior to GFL, correct?
I believe so.
I believe, yeah, that
I think I still
expired
use
in
their-
Yep, I
2019.
still have a
Yeah.
cart.
But Priority Waste, though, they got the residential, single-family duplex already included in the original price, so. And if you add that in, they're actually.
Oh, the recycling?
Yeah.
And Waste Management's trash is better, but their recycling is almost double.
True. Oh, yeah, so I guess you look at priority overall.
Yeah, priorities included in
Mhm.
the original price. So, just pointed out.
And just a reminder, this current contract with GFL does expire October 31st, if more time is needed to review.
Not a bad idea.
You can only review what is currently here. We cannot ask for other things. We cannot ask for
Correct.
other bids. We can only have what we currently have. So that is perfectly fine, but just know you can't go back and ask questions now and ask, well, what if you did this or that?
Mm-mm.
It has to be what we were given.
That's closed.
So how were the references on priority?
Oh, geez, you're taxing my brain.
I'm
Didn't
sorry. I'm
Washington
not
just
familiar
do
with them, so I'm
priority?
I
curious.
thought so.
I
thought they
think
just changed
Washington
over.
Township just jumped on, and that one jumped out at me on priority. I mean, there was a lot.
Okay.
I don't,
Okay.
that's the only one that stood out to me that
Yeah.
was
I'm sure
close.
if we go
Priority
somewhere
is
and
the
they do a horrible
local-
job, we've got an out.
Yeah. I'm just not familiar with them, so.
They are a local Macomb County company that is in their stuff here if you wanted to, if that's something that interests you, that it's a local company.
They have cameras on their trucks, 360 cameras.
Yep.
So we can see.
There, yeah, that's why
Very
some of
cool.
that stuff I included, I thought was like,
Yeah.
some people had a little more info there than others.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Any other thoughts? I don't know.
Let's tackle the beast of, do you want to go outside residential and move into central business? That sort of thing? What would everyone's thoughts be there?
Now, on this bid, though, I will say for the Central Business District, we did have an addendum come up that I did oh boy, it escapes me now, the two smallest dumpsters allowed, just due to time, real estate that's available behind, and one pickup per week would be for the Central Business District. That's all that would be allowed. If you are a business that requires more than one, then you're on your own to find outside sources. I just did not feel that having multiple pickups in the Central Business District throughout the week and larger than life dumpsters would be feasible. So that's what these numbers are based on. One pickup and 4 and 6 yard. Escapes me. I didn't write that down. My apologies.
Under the priority, under Central Business District, 90-gallon containers, it says included in the proposal for Central Business District. Is that the attachment with the dumpsters? Or is that somewhere else? Because I didn't see that.
Let's see. The service provider shall
For the
provide.
recycling, I should say. Oh, never mind.
Yep.
I'm answering my own question.
Okay.
Okay.
I just saw recycling.
Catherine, what is available in our budget when it comes to waste hauler?
I want to say, I don't believe it's more than 300,000.
And what does this look like?
That I would have to crunch the numbers on each table to figure that out, depending on what you guys were interested in. Because it's been a steady increase the last 5 years. Every year it would go up incrementally, and it's continuing to go up.
So what's our budget this year, Fran? What are they investing in? What's our overall amount?
I want to say it's around 280. I apologize, I don't have those numbers in front of me. 280,000. I know it's under 300, but it's more than 250.
Yeah, because we were looking pretty good in that account.
Mhm.
The last time we did this, we had a significant decrease
Correct. We had some wiggle room.
I make a motion that we table this until next month so that we can get exactly what it would cost to have GFL or Priority provide services for residential and apartments, both trash pickup and recycling, to make sure it fits within our budget.
So you'd
Both
just
yard use
want,
and yard waste.
you want totals, you want us to total it out?
Yeah,
Yeah, to make
Okay.
sure it fits in our budget.
I'll support that.
We have a motion by Rousseau, support by Care, to table in lieu of some totals. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. One second. Is there anything else? Do you want to include any of the references? Anything else in there?
Nope, as long as
Okay.
you got them.
Okay. Moving into our tree maintenance RFP. We got one quote back. I would like to send this back out, try again, if that would be, so I would like to, do I need to make a motion to reject this bid, Mr. Clark?
If you're gonna rebid it, then yes, I
Okay.
would. I would, if that's the council's pleasure, I would move to reject it, and then you can proceed in any fashion you choose.
Okay. I'll make the motion to reject the current bid for our tree maintenance, second by trustee Fowler.
How
All in-
does this price compare to what we're currently paying?
Currently, we were doing 8,000 a day,
Okay.
price-wise.
Is this our current contractor already?
No.
It's new?
Correct.
Okay.
No, this is new. We currently deal with Able.
Oh, yeah.
And who is this?
He didn't turn, our current person didn't turn one in.
Did not hear back.
I guess I'm looking at the scratching here on this application. Who is this guy? I mean, there's no company name on it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not realize
Yeah.
that.
I just.
This is budget.
Yeah.
Budget?
There's no identification.
No name.
Okay.
At all.
Budget's good company.
It's just scratched.
Yeah. It's budget. Tree services.
That's who this is?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So we should have the identification of each applicant on the application.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I apologize. I don't know if it was on there or not. Okay, all in favor of rejecting the current bid?
Aye.
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 Do we have any opposed? I'll make a motion to ask the clerk to go back out for RFP for a tree service scope of work. Is there any support?
Wasn't there already a motion?
I didn't, there was a motion to rescind the
Oh,
offer, and I'm
sorry.
making a motion
Supported by
to send it back out.
I'll support your new one then.
Okay. Motion by myself, support by Care to re-bid. All in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? None opposed. Okay, moving into our elected officials pay ordinance. Trustee Parker, take it
Can I
away.
interrupt just real quick? For the RFP for the tree maintenance, can we get it to be a little bit more descriptive? Not so much like the waste hauling, but a little bit more than what was there as far as,
Like, how do you mean? Like,
Well, that's their choice to return it how they want
right.
it.
Yeah, but I guess as far as like the opening packet we got with the, and I'm sorry to cut,
No,
maybe
go
I'm on
ahead.
the same page or wrong, the opening packet we got with the waste, you know, explain everything that we're looking for, just so that we know what you've sent out.
Well, this is what I sent out because I've spoke with a couple of the interested parties that unfortunately did not submit, and it's like almost apples to oranges, because one company has a crew of 20 and could do 5 trees in one day, and another company has a crew of 4 because their equipment is way different and they can do 10 trees in one day. So it's not apples to apples. So I'm trying to give a scope of, okay, so what's your daily rate? How many trees can you do? What does your equipment look like? What does your staff look like? That's the only thing I can glean from them, and then that would be the best way to make our decision, because no two are going to have the same response, unfortunately.
I mean, I like whoever this company was, guy or gal, I like all the things they included, you know, with how many trees they can do, how long it takes, the size of the grinder that they have. I mean, he included a lot of stuff.
Right. I mean, that's what I have to ask them, you know,
give as
just their
much.
basics. What is it? What do you have to offer? I can't just say, we need this, can you match it? Because they can do it, but probably not how we think we need it.
Right.
And that's with talking with some of these tree professionals that reached out to me.
So maybe just something that is specific like that, but also things like, are they gonna repair damage to lawns? Are they gonna drop the logs, or do they remove them and put them in a bin? Like, some things like that, how are they actually gonna do the work? Because personally, if it's 2 guys or it's 100, doesn't matter to me, as long as they're not damaging lawns or damaging roads or anything like that. The equipment is what matters and how they're gonna handle it. So I don't necessarily think the number of guys.
Well, they
matters.
did ask, one of them did ask, you know, like, this is mostly residential where, you know, it's in the easement where all your trucks will be in the main road. And with the help of DPW, if that needs to happen, they can come and assist with any barricades or barrels. But I made it clear to them, because that was one of their questions, that you guys would just be staying on the residential roads primarily, unless there's an incident or something extreme goes on.
Right, so you could put that in there, you know, make note that you have to stay within the residential roads, not on sidewalks, easements, or lawns.
Right, yeah, because I don't think a resident would want our tree hauler to be on their driveway.
Yeah, and they do. So if you could get like a little more specific like that, that would be helpful. And then they know a little bit more of what we're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Catherine or,
Yes.
or Megan, so there's a line in here, Zach and I were just kind of chatting about it, that the contractor understands that the village reserves the right to award the job to the township, or as it is determined in the township's best interest.
Oh, nope,
What is-
that,
What does that
sorry,
mean?
my edit did not, I changed that to village, and it did not save correctly.
So what does that mean either way, though? To award all or parts of this contract?
All our parts, if we have just a regular tree removal contractor, or we have somebody just specifically for emergencies that can be called and with us on a dime.
Okay, so if it's an emergency and there's a bad storm and budget can't make it out there, we have the
Correct,
right
we have
to
somebody,
call
yeah,
them.
we have the right to call somebody
Okay.
else, or we have the right to bring the next person up in line.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that should be village instead of.
Correct. That edit did not go through, but yes, in case we needed to cover ourselves double.
Are we all set?
Thank you.
Okay. Moving into the next elected officials pay ordinance, trustee Parker.
Yeah, so first I apologize for having this added last month. I didn't realize at the time that I was going to be out of town, so apologize. So like I discussed at the meeting I was at when I brought this up, was looking to have a discussion on this, on the ordinances for the elected officials and the pay. 3 of us here had an issue with pay raises and what was going on back when they were happening. Now just in seeing the increased cost with some outside consultants and firms, continuing with Plant Moran, we had an issue with that also. July, Plant Moran was over $13,000. And if we're gonna continue to outsource things that could be done in-house, I thought we should have a discussion and look at how we're paying the elected officials in the office and go from there. Obviously, I don't think this is something that's gonna be settled tonight or worked out, maybe in future meetings, but if we can have a discussion and get thoughts. I know Matt had some concerns with it earlier this year. He's not here to voice those opinions, but I don't know if anyone else has looked at it since I made it or brought it up and had any thoughts or opinions and moving forward.
Are there any specifics that you're referencing, or is it more about their pay or their job description, or I guess, do you want to get into it now, or you're just trying to get it on our radar?
we can get into it now, or, you know, like I said, in future meetings, if it's gonna take a meeting or two to discuss this, I have no problem. I don't wanna take up a ton of time every meeting or not, but, yeah, I mean, if you look at past administrations and the amount of work that was done in-house, even referencing the Plant Moran, and like you had said, that we used to use a temp service, which I'm sure still costs the village a lot less money than Plant Moran in the long run. And if it meant that our elected officials and our office staff were taking care of things, we gotta look at what's best for the taxpayers in the long run. So, and I know me, you, and Trustee Fowler, we all had an issue with it when it was brought up in the past. And
I remember.
now we're at another point, and we're continuing to spend money on services like Plant Moran. And I think we need to have a discussion on that.
With our biggest supporters now exited the village was Ford's. So that was the biggest tax supporter. It's might be a good time to talk about this.
Yeah.
I remember
Microphone?
from the perspective
Oh,
of,
ah,
I don't know, you just don't keep them on.
thanks, yeah. Yeah.
That's maybe you're
just
swearing
said
or
as far as, I think it's a good topic at this time. It's something that we definitely need to address because Ford's is no longer our biggest supporter here in the area. So we definitely have to tighten our belt.
I remember the conversation from the perspective of a resident sitting in the office. It was,
Well, if Matt had something to say about it, maybe we should just table it to next month.
Yeah, like I said,
Assuming
I just
that'll be
wanted to
back.
start the discussion
Good topic.
and bring that, bring that up and let's move forward.
We can. Something I would like to at least address while we have this out on the floor is the president and the, what is it? Not the manager.
administrator.
The administrator, thank you. That at this time, I don't plan on appointing an administrator. Just having that description hanging out there is unnecessary. And it removes anything in the future, anybody trying to claim unemployment as the no longer released from your position administrator. So I would, if you would entertain that, to remove that position. And should this board should at some time, whatever president decide that needs to be brought back, then that board at that time would bring that back. But I would think that we could be done with that position, that job description.
So can you clarify for me, if we eliminate the administrator job position, then the president would take, theoretically, like you probably already, but the president would take on all of those responsibilities?
Well, those duties are the president's inherently. So I take nothing additional on. I would be giving away.
So maybe the ordinance just needs to be altered to spell that out a little clearer, that if the president maintains, then the president is not the administrator, the president's the president. And if they choose so to appoint an administrator, that's the option.
It does pretty much say that. However, remind me, I mean, step in, Mark, but it does pretty much clarify that
Microphone.
in almost those terms.
Microphone, please.
However, there was been confusion in the past.
Yeah, that's maybe. we'll
Are you
clarify.
talking about compensation, or are you talking about roles?
Well, both.
Okay. The president has always, that position has always been that which is provided in the General Law Village Act. The president is the chief executive officer of the village and has all the responsibilities of that station, if you will, or that position as specified in the General Law Village Act. There was a period of time, a number of years, where the council felt there should be somebody full-time in the office, village office, that could exercise those responsibilities. And so the administrator position was designated. And it's really important, it gets lost in the discussion, but it's very, very important. The administrative position was an assignment of tasks. It was and I don't mean to demean or denigrate the position, but it was in the nature of a secretary or an administrative assistant to the president. The administrator would exercise those executive tasks, but the administrator had no authority beyond the execution of those tasks to do anything. So if the administrator said, I'm going to do A, and the president said, no, you're not, then the administrator would not have the ability to do it. And so without appointing the administrator, you don't have to undo, I don't believe you can, I don't think you're required to undo something you're not doing. You don't have an administrator now. Through the prior administration and the current one, there's been no appointment of an administrator. So I think you can just let that lie. Do you have to? No, but I don't think you have to do anything. You can if you choose, but the reason I asked about whether you were talking about the role or the compensation is, I believe in one of your compensation ordinances, and the council has the authority over compensation, and one of your compensation ordinances, you had it postured something to the effect that, well, if there's an administrator appointed, the president's compensation would be this amount. If there's not an administrator appointed, the president's compensation would be a different amount. And so if you're not doing it, you don't have to parse those, compensations, if you will.
I mean, across the state of Michigan, villages don't have administrators, they have village managers. So I think that's what the title, that's what the role you're probably speaking about is.
Yeah, and a manager is appointed by the council as opposed to your administrator would be from your
An
president.
administrator is unique to Romeo.
And the manager position, authorized by statute, it's in the General Law Village Act, if you do that, and this is why, and I apologize for repeating myself, but the distinction is critically important, is if you have a manager, it's not only an assignment of tasks, it's an assignment of authority. The manager gets to act in, and carry out those duties and responsibilities with the authority to do so. And so it's allowed, it's permitted. As Ms. Trapp said, there are probably a number of them, maybe a majority, I do not know, throughout the state in terms of village administration, but it's different, it's not the same.
Right. And just going back to that's where, hey, Mike, you made it. There's been confusion in the past that the president is the president/administrator, and it is not. Those are, you cannot work for yourself. You cannot tell yourself what to do in that way, and therefore there's been confusion, and you can't fire yourself from a job and claim unemployment. So I'm trying to clear up that.
So had you appointed an administrator, that person basically could get removed from their position and claim unemployment. You as
I
the-
believe so. Would that be correct?
Yes, because it's a position with responsibilities and a compensation attributed to it. I don't do workers' compensation cases, and so I'm not speaking as an authority, but I would assume if somebody had a position to which he or she was appointed, received a regular paycheck, and then either quit, was laid off, or was fired, depending on eligibility, would be able to apply in some manner or form for unemployment benefits.
And as an elected president, 4 years from now, if you choose not to run, or if you run and don't win, can you collect unemployment then?
No.
You should not.
You should not, okay. So, should we then decide, are you collecting the administrator's salary?
I'm collecting president's salary.
President's salary only. So maybe that's what we need to clarify so that we know also what we'd be facing in the future with any other president who runs, doesn't win, and chooses to apply for unemployment. We can say, no, you were strictly the president with those duties, or you collected the admin salary, you have that right. I think maybe we need to also keep a little bit more tabs on that, so that we don't have people applying for unemployment again that probably shouldn't.
I agree.
If I could, I have a question for Trustee Parker. It sounds like you are just having an issue with us using professional outside services that are creating a cost expenditure to the village residents. Am I correct, or is there another item that I'm missing?
I mean, that's the gist of it, yeah. That we're continuing to, it seems like, increase our costs. I understand the cost of everything has gone up, but increase the amount of outside services that we're using to do what seemed to have been done in a day-to-day manner and within the office before. And again, if you can provide proof, please.
Well, we do have big projects going on, like we changed over the water rate system and the water rate billing system. We have the roads project, so you're going to see extra expenditures. But I would love to have
This was added months ago, so it wasn't just this month's building. This has
Okay.
been something.
Well, I mean, that's been ongoing,
discussed
but-
Since the past administration also. Before President Poznanski came in, it was a discussion that we had then too. So it's not just a snapshot today. It's been years coming where the expense is growing.
Okay, I guess I just don't understand why we can't use outside in-source resources. I mean, President Poznanski's not an engineer, I'm not a CPA. We would need to enlist help from those professionals in order to run the village sufficiently.
And I can respect that to some extent, but even the comparison we talked with Plant Moran, us three all had an issue with it. You said we used to use a temp service, which my understanding never was an issue.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was an issue, but it just wasn't brought to the attention of the public.
Then it should have been, because then we should be transparent. But now we're spending, last month, $13,805 for Plant Moran. I can't see the justification in that. And that's just one line item, so. Is it personal? No. Is it down to the dollars and what we're doing with the taxpayers' money? That's where we're at.
But we need these services, and sometimes it does require them to go outside of the village walls to get these
And I
services
understand
for
when
our village residents.
Anyone ran for a position and took a position, knowing what was entailed, should have felt that they met the requirements to fulfill that. And it didn't mean just outsourcing everything and not being there in the office the time it takes to get the job done.
Well, there's no checklist for criteria for trustees or elected officials in the village hall, so.
There's General Village Law Act, there's a bunch of
Right.
ordinances that say what everyone's responsibilities are within the village. And if it needed to be reviewed prior to running for an election, then it should have been reviewed.
Well, then it should be reviewed for all elected positions then.
So I'd like to make a
And that's why it
motion.
doesn't say anyone, it says elected officials. Not-
Well, President Poznanski is the only one that has an ordinance that dictates her pay and benefits,
So I'd
and the
like-
trustees.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this discussion for next month,
Second.
so that we can,
I agree, thank you.
Are we just going to discuss it? Is anyone going to bring any information, any documentation?
I'd like to see the ordinances and the current pay, if possible, for elected officials, just included, so we all have it for reference
And job
for next month. Job description, yeah.
Well,
That's-
job descriptions are in the law.
That's in general village
That's
law.
dictated by general law of village, our statute obligations, which you guys all have a copy of.
Can we get, it doesn't have to be broken down, but a gross number of what's been spent annually on consulting services? So if Plant Moran's one, or there's another one.
You would need to be a little bit more specific, because between us, probably police, DPW, wastewater, all areas of the village have consulting services expenditures within their budget, so I would just need to know exactly which ones you want to see and for what projects.
Sounds like you already know what you need to pull.
Well, I'm asking you.
I'm telling you, I would like the gross for any consultant over the past 4 years.
Of any consultant. Well, okay, I hope to have this completed by the next meeting.
Thank you.
Is that like
Another,
regular contracted or special?
We have a motion.
Do we get a second?
Motion to table.
Okay, we have a motion by Bartholomew, second by Fowler to table. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None opposed? If I may, while we're on this whole pay thing, and just something to bring up, if we're looking to shore up a budget a little bit, I know that we just passed it for our planning commissions and our zoning commission, but there's 10 to 20 grand in there that never used to be set aside. So just keep that in mind if we need to undo what we did. There's money in there, too. Okay. Mr. McDonald, are you able to do, or up for the crosswalk review? Sorry. I am. Okay. Would you like to come up to the podium over here?
Good evening, everybody. So would you like me to just summarize what I've seen so far? There are a few things yet that I would like to look at and talk with a few other folks at the office, but a gentleman from our field staff got out last week to take a look at the various locations of the crosswalks, and I was out there early this afternoon, ran into Tim and another gentleman out there as well. So I do have some feedback of what I'm seeing so far, some things that maybe we could look into further, and maybe some of the directions we might want to go to, and then maybe we can talk about it Thursday a bit further when we have our road project update meeting with the contractor. Maybe we can
Okay.
talk further. So I see a few locations where, start with most of the locations, look at the slope and how the crosswalks were laid out, and the portions of them that were replaced. Say by and large, the majority of them were fairly simple locations, and the slopes and grades and limits of the replacements seem in order. There are a couple that are right at that, so the maximum slope for a crosswalk and the ramp down to the landing pad adjacent to the crosswalk is 8.3%, so 1 foot of drop in over 12 feet gives you that 8.33%. There are a couple that are right at that. I wouldn't expect that those would be an issue. They meet the requirement. We just had a laser level, so we didn't shoot grades or anything at this point, but I would say that those are compliant. There are a couple more locations that they actually designed them, the grading on the plans, or the grades and the slopes that are shown in their plans are slightly over that 8.33%. One location is like in the 11% range, another in the 12, I believe. The one that comes to mind is over at the south side of 32 Mile on the west side of Bailey, where that entrance to the church is, if you can picture that location. The walk actually comes down a little more than I think it's a little more than 10%. And then also when you go up to the entrance to the building, it's like 12%. The plans do reflect something very similar to the slopes that I measured with our level. You know, there are some exceptions where existing buildings do allow for those type of things, because you have an existing roadway that you're not changing, and a building obviously that you can't change either. So my guess is they probably got an exception for some of those. I think that probably is the only ADA entrance into the building, unless there's one in the back by the alley. They maybe could have done some things a little differently with the sidewalk itself, maybe gone a little further to the west to replace another slab or two, maybe cut in maybe a raised curb on that side towards the building to allow it to come down closer to the road, and then slope it down towards the landing and the intersection a bit more. I don't know what went into that and why it was decided to do that, but there could have been some other things that could have been done maybe to correct that one. Now, the other side of
Mike, if I could, real quick, so on that section right there, while it's not probably correct, you said that was part of what you saw in the original plans?
I think it's shown that way in the original plans with those slopes. So they didn't deviate significantly from what I could see from the original plan. There is one other across the across 32 Mile, there's the restaurant, it's the Four Corners Restaurant. They have that raised walk that kind of surrounds the entrance, that particular entrance to the restaurant. I think they do have another, the main entrance and ADA compliant would be off of the parking lot.
Yeah.
So that was probably why they did that. Now, the crosswalks themselves, coming from both Bailey and along 32 Mile, those are less than the 8.3 down
They
to
just
the
created
landing.
too big of a step.
Pardon?
They've created too big of a step, basically.
They do have a bigger step there that isn't ideal either.
Should it have been two?
Probably could have been, and that would have made it a bit better, I would say. But given that the primary entrance is on the other side, it's not ADA compliant, I don't know what went into that decision either. That one could have been done differently as well, I would say.
Okay.
And then another location this would be south of 32 Mile on the east side of Main Street at Lafayette. There is a section that was shown to be, this would be the northeast corner. Along the building, it is a little more than the 8.3%, was shown at 8%. So that one, they did deviate different from what the plan showed. I don't know what the reasoning is, but looks like that one is a little steeper than the 8.3 allowable. Then there is one other location that is on the north of 32 at Newbury on the west side, where they have the planter box, and that one is definitely steeper. That's like a little over 9%, I think, that the actual ramp that goes to the north and parallels the building fronts there. It's got the stairways. That one again, it looks like they designed, or they constructed it pretty similarly to how their plan showed it. It did show 9%, showed that stairway being left in place. They could have done something different there. I believe that they probably could have taken those stairs out, added a third step, maybe reconfigured it so that it came the entrance or the ramp up or steps up to that landing maybe could have been along the building face to get to that, and maybe brought that through and kept that under the 8.3%. Not sure what went into the decision, whether it was funding, maybe that building owner wouldn't allow that, I'm not real sure.
So
But it is
on that, when you said the original plans, I thought it showed adding another step there, redoing that step.
I don't believe it did. The plan I was looking at did not show that there was a,
Because then there was a letter, I think President Poznanski provided it to us a couple months ago, that it was even brought up in a question to a historical committee about
Okay.
if they could touch the steps, and they basically all said that those weren't original steps to the building.
Okay.
So they could have done that, but it was pushed. So I thought it was included in the with
did not look like the
I saw.
plans that I had, and I think the plans that you gave me were what I would call the bid plans and the plans that they used. So maybe sometime between when that question was asked and the plans were finalized, that changed, but it looked, they provide detailed grades around that, the perimeter of the stairway, the little stairs, and they looked like they were intended to be left in place and then work around those.
So you didn't review any of this prior to this project starting?
No, I did not, just looked at what was actually constructed.
I thought that was pretty typical with stuff done within the village. We had our engineering review work being done prior to it being done, but I would have thought.
I can
you
do
would
that,
have.
I did not look and dig into it that far. It
No,
was
I thought
mostly
before the
construction
project
related.
started, you would have.
Oh,
you
no,
guys would
I don't
have.
think we did, since a different consultant was designing
Right.
that. I mean, normally, that was a DDA project, I believe, so they
It was funded
hired.
by the village,
It was hand in hand.
both, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not that normally a project, if it's done for the governmental entity, there isn't a separate review of.
We don't
of it.
necessarily have to follow our own rules,
Yeah.
which,
So my bet is they found some, because they were existing buildings, existing roads, they best fitted in for any number of reasons and was what they designed. So that's what I'm finding. I wanted to look into the curb and the ramp, the stairways a bit more at that location. Those seem to be the 2 or 3 locations that are you know, that would likely have been, could have been done differently. You know, any designer can come up with many different things, so it's just a matter of what got decided on, and I don't know all the variables and discussions that went into it either, so.
So if I understand correctly, then the one specifically you were just referencing, although it might not be ideal, we don't have to change it because it is within limits and guidelines of what's required of us?
I would bet that they're getting a design exception with historic, not even necessarily just historic, but just that you have an existing finished floor elevation that leads you into the building, you've got existing curbing, roadway. If maybe different if you were redesigning the roadway at the same time as you're redoing all of these ramps and the sidewalks. So that would be different because you're redoing the infrastructure. But when you're trying to fit something in to meet all of those criteria with, you know, a fixed budget and scope of the project, there are exceptions where things can be done differently and slopes can be done differently. So my bet is that that's what was done when this project was designed.
That intersection, the road kind of was redone. They cut out and
Yeah.
put the big circle out and eliminated a parking spot, and so.
Is that the location there on
the
Newberry?
north- Yeah, the Newberry.
Okay, the Newberry location?
Yeah, it was.
So-
Would it be an astronomical cost if we asked or had this looked at for fixes, we'll say, to some of these more extreme, like I said, it's not all bad. You know, some of the cross or ramps or intersections aren't bad, but there are some concerns and potential trips and stuff that have already happened.
We could look at, you know, a concept with, you know, we've got the grades and slopes that it's at. We could see what, you know, there are a few things that we threw around out there today that could have been done
And the biggest
differently,
hurdle,
just to see what those might be, and they probably will be expensive, you're on target with that, but just to see what those might be, we could come up with some sketches to identify what those might be.
That would
And
be
our-
the safety of the residents and.
our biggest
visitors
hurdle
are
would be the fact that
huge.
you're talking about roads that don't belong to us, part, depending on the portion of where you're at, and having to coordinate with Macomb County roads and permissions and all that kind of stuff.
If we
Right.
got into the roadway, yeah, or if there's fixes that we could design that would not involve going to the road.
You know, that one the location there that we're talking about at Newberry, there's that, you know, the ramp is going at 8% nice and even, and or 9%, and then it slopes off down at that angle, if you can picture it towards the corner, and where you need to go down to the sidewalk that's more on Newberry and make the turn to go east towards Main Street. It slopes off more rapidly on that angle. I could see where that, if a wheelchair got to
Yeah,
that spot,
and
it
it's been an
forces
issue.
you over towards that wall.
Yeah. It's been
So
an
that-
issue with a resident in town that
Okay.
they said they wouldn't go down it with their chair because.
Well, I know it is different. That's why they set those slopes accordingly, because they're, you know, very difficult for somebody in a wheelchair to access them.
Can we look into those, and if it becomes an extreme cost, we would bring it back for a motion or approval by council to spend money on designing?
I mean, if you
fix?
guys want to spend money on consulting to figure out ideas for this, make a motion, let's do it.
You could give us an idea on what that cost would be first?
Yeah, I think we said like 2,500 to do a review, and I think that might have included some of that. You know, we haven't spent very much of that, if anything, yet. Just, you know, again, a field visit and some discussion. So, you know, we probably would have some time in that to develop some.
Was
Some
this activity
concept.
done by the existing contractor that did the job? Would this fall underneath their repairs?
I don't believe so. I think, considering that this was done with grants, MDOT money and that sort of thing, I don't think they come back to redo anything. That was kind of the information I got from Rowe Engineering, who oversaw the project.
Well, the question about liability, you have a couple perhaps. One is there a contractual liability? Whoever designed it and built it, if it's not according to standards or according to the contract requirements, then you may have a contract issue. The liability issue, if you're talking about personal injury, one of my concerns, and this was raised not by me but by a council member when a representative of Rowe was here about the slope, because one of the, and I'm not an engineer and I don't pretend to be, I'm not going to start now, but one of the concerns is that if you have an issue with a road or a sidewalk that adjoins a road is not either repaired properly, maintained properly, or constructed properly, then it's, you have a potential issue, and the engineer from Rowe stated, and I'm not trying to put him in a box, but just to try to narrow the issue, stated that legally he was fine with the slope and the grade, and that's as it appears today. This was after the project was completed, and he said he could defend that. So if there is a claim that would avoid governmental immunity, because typically governments have immunity from things they don't do well or haven't done as well as they should have, then the issue would be, well, it was a bad design, it was a bad construction, the village knew it, and so you're responsible. And again, the gentleman from Rowe said, the grade's fine, everything's constructed according to industry standards, and I would stand up or testify in any court of law and defend it. Whether he could defend it successfully or not, different issue, but the representation was made to this body that, that it met industry standards. And I don't question whether it did or does, that was the representation that was made.
When that person got up, I remember that. When he got up,
Microphone?
actually said
Zach?
that they were rushed. They were rushed to get the job done. I think that's.
Well, again, the concern, you have separate concerns. One is the contractual or financial. Did the DDA or the village get what it bargained for? You agreed to pay X number of dollars for a sidewalk project throughout the downtown. Did you get what you bargained for? That's a strictly financial or contractual issue. The other part is whether they were rushed or not, they still have to abide by the contract, and they have to abide by industry standards to avoid liability. And the representation was made that it's within industry standards.
But like Mike, you just stated, some of it was, the slopes were steeper than what were even on the plans. Not all of them, but at least two of them, I think you mentioned, that were steeper than they were supposed to be, based on the original.
Certainly the location at Lafayette on the east, the northeast corner. And I think there was one other at that Newberry location. So yes, that is correct. The others, I believe, were shown generally to be what I measured with the laser level.
Yeah, except for that fall off coming out of the church there.
Yes, that ramp or the walkway up to the building, and that was shown to be very similar to what I measured it at, so.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
you guys
and-
did the contract and they didn't follow what you wrote down.
No, they did
Pardon?
not. They did not.
No, different
did not.
company.
It was
Yeah,
them.
they didn't do it.
The engineer.
It was a different firm.
Okay.
And I think the one other thing that I remember, Will, Tim and I and Christine had talked about the drainage issue that is at Washington.
Washington,
Yeah,
yeah.
that northeast corner of Washington and Main Street, that structure was removed and now it goes down. So that one,
Yeah.
I remember also, I guess I was focusing more on the crosswalks themselves and sloping and
Yeah.
grading. So that was the other thing that occurred, and maybe that gets back to the being rushed. I think Peach Fest was coming and needed to get wrapped up, so that didn't.
Well, I think we had found that it was a old, which was state, and then now it's county drain that went nowhere. It wasn't even hooked up.
I think it maybe needed to be cleaned, right?
It was
Tim? Is
clogged.
that-
No, it was not hooked to nothing, right? The one there Washington,
It's hard to say without, like,
Okay,
yeah, well, that's what I was
we
told.
tried
It-
jetting it so far, we tried cleaning it, and the
Okay.
jet stopped, so without digging it up to see where it went.
okay. Well, I thought it created, more drainage ran
Right.
down the street than previously, but neither here. That was the other, I think the rush thing for sure.
Yeah, and
Not
we've
sure
talked
about the
about
other things.
addressing that in the future.
Yeah,
with the road
exactly.
work.
Yep, we have an idea of what to do for that so that it doesn't continue running down into Lions Field.
So basically, we have a couple of them that aren't done within what our contract stated or within guidelines. Do we have any recourse?
No, that's kind of what we were just talking about, is that it,
There's.
when Roe came, said it was all done accordingly, and he would stand behind that.
If they got sued by someone having an accident, but as far as our contractual agreement with
Right.
them to do it to the plans, do we have any recourse to go back, Mark?
Well, my recollection is that agreement, and I don't know, accuracy is important, is that agreement was between the DDA and Roe or the contractor. I'm not sure the village was a party to that contract. I'd have to look. It's something readily determinable, I just don't know, as we sit here.
I think you're right.
And so if the village wasn't a party to the contract, the answer is no. You can get into these wonderful lawyerly arguments about third-party beneficiary and other things like that, but usually the direct contractual relationship would control, and if you're not a party to it, then you'd have to assert that somehow you're nevertheless disadvantaged by it, and you had a right to expect that it would be done differently, and therefore, even though you're not a party to the contract, you're still harmed.
Could we verify that? And then Megan, could you, when you go back to the DDA, have a discussion with them regarding them looking into this?
I thought it was a joint project.
Yeah, we did work on it together. The DDA put in 90, thought it was it 80, 90, I thought, into the overall of what, it was like a couple, 200-300, I don't remember.
I think it was about
Grants and
230.
Right, but the village got the grant, and did the village sign the contract?
Yeah,
So-
and the DDA just cost shared, would
Correct.
be the proper word.
It was 80-20, I think.
Yeah, we can look into it.
Yeah, and if we can go back to Roe and say, hey, I know you said
Good
it was
night.
$5,000, but we're looking at tens of thousands to even get this close to safe
Mhm.
and see where we get.
Or maybe have them provide their criteria that was followed at these couple of locations. Maybe there was a design exception that was granted, or, there was some direction to leave the stairs, that happened at some point before the.
Who would grant that exception?
Um,
The contract was?
no, it either could be from the village, it could be from I think it was an MDOT, a project that was bid through MDOT, so they would have had some review in it too, so my guess is it would have come either between the village or MDOT and Roe as they presented what they would recommend in order to, best fit it to those constraints that were going to remain and the budget and what funding was available.
Copy. With that, Catherine, I know, he's brought up the work that we did there at Washington and Maine, and I know there was a cost share project outside of this contract with, I think, Tar and Associates. Have we collected on that funding?
No, invoices have been submitted to said property, and no funds have been forwarded to the Village of Romeo on their behalf. Nope.
I know there's been communication with the treasurer,
Okay.
but no.
Do we have a
Start putting
collection
interest payments on
policy?
it?
One at a time.
I'm sorry, go ahead, answer Zach.
I said, can we start putting interest payments on that? Might get his attention.
I don't know if we could look into it and get a report back on where that is for next month. Unless, obviously, paid in full would be nice to hear.
Sounds good. So it should
Can I
be
ask-
tabled. Is that what I'm understanding?
I don't know, you've talked about potentially asking for further review.
I think
Um,
initially,
what do
if we look at contractually what we can do, or if it's the DDA,
Yes.
and then if it's DDA, if you can move forward with that. If not, bring it back to us, and we can have a discussion on if we want to pursue anything contractually, or if you could even just have a conversation
What can
with
we do
Roe and
about-
say, hey, this is where we're at, this is our initial findings.
So is that a motion to do that?
I don't know, do we need a motion just to,
Do in-house homework?
I mean, we're not spending any money.
In-house homework?
Yeah.
If you guys are just doing that.
Do it in-house.
Table it?
We're not spending no money.
So hold off on doing any
we
concept
don't-
sketch or anything at this
yeah,
point, so maybe summarize what we've talked about in an email? Is that necessary, or is that good?
I
Okay.
think that'd be
That'd
good.
be awesome, thanks, Mike.
Okay.
We
Can do.
appreciate it. And we can give you
Yeah.
phone calls, right? That won't cost us.
And how long they are, yeah.
Don't say yes.
No, no.
Want it in writing?
Motion to table and rediscuss next month.
I didn't hear.
Did you want to?
Yeah. Hey, hold on, Mike.
I knew there was one.
I almost forgot my glasses.
Going back to
you.
our road mills, looking back at that, were you able to find anything there or plug that sort of information in?
We did get some preliminary, and I haven't had a chance to review it yet with our gent that took over to run that road soft program that we talked about. So
Okay.
he does have a couple scenarios in it, and taken the bid prices that we received for the project that's ongoing, so that basically they take that lane mile cost that we have based on those real numbers, added that into the software that will generate the road ratings over, a number of years, and then use that to prorate how much we can complete with the remaining roads, what that road rating would then be if all of those are brought up to a 10 as a new road, and then we look at those other scenarios of adding 200 or 350 or nothing to it over that time period. So I'll have that, we can, if that's okay.
Yeah, we can do that
take
next
a look
month.
at it on Thursday at our meeting also, and then we can decide how we would want to
Okay,
present that to the trustees as well.
yeah. It's making me nervous, seeing what we have left and what we've done
Yeah,
and where we need to
things
go.
are just so outrageously expensive.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably am. I thought when you just said bring all roads to a 10, I thought when we originally discussed this, it was decided to get them to a manageable level and then maintain this with maintenance and stuff over a course of years, not to redo completely right now.
So using the same methods that are being used for the current roads, so we're saving, the majority of the curb, all of or most of the aggregate base that's under there, so that is all being utilized, what's in good condition, replacing the sections of curb that are not, if you've gone out and seen some of the construction that's going on, and then updating structures, and then putting 4 inches of new asphalt to match the existing thickness that's there. So that, in essence, is considered a, nearly new road, since, we have to do that. The asphalt itself is so degraded that if you were to do, say,
You can't take off you
2
can't take
inches.
off it.
Yeah, it's just so rubbleized underneath, you could never do that. And even if you could do that successfully, it would be like now 2 inches of asphalt over gravel that would reflect through so quickly. So but it isn't ripping, as you see, it's not ripping everything out and redoing it entirely, but it does bring them up to a new standard. So
Am I incorrect in saying that originally we talked about getting them to like a 7 or an 8, I thought?
we did talk, but there really isn't an option to do that without, once they get to the point where they are, they
And that was
need
back 3
4
years
inches of
ago.
asphalt.
And
And
so
then we
when
can't
when did
do,
that direction change? When did we all go from getting them to a manageable level to we're gonna get them to a 10?
I think the manageable level would then come in that we would be maintaining them that way into the future, so that instead of in 15 years, that they're now, going back to a poor surface where we're top coating them, we're seal coating them, we're repairing joints and those type of things to then keep it going. Plus, we can use some money maybe for some roads that didn't get included or maybe aren't in as bad a shape, then we could do some of those other treatments to it as well, to then bring those others up to that point. But to go from the 2 that they are to the 7, there really isn't many options, and I think that was identified as the millage was, after the funding was available, so.
And that's where the other 2 mills that we didn't institute are a major concern, because it's
Are
not
important.
there to do that maintenance. It's not there to follow up.
Right, and to continue doing others, and then doing them over the next 10 years or some time period to get them to that same level.
So the section that's being done now was originally one of our best sections, or better, of
Yeah. We had some 4s.
yeah. So it sounds like the rest of the entire village is going to get, or needs to get, completely, you're nodding, yeah, you know where I'm going, like all
It's all at
redone.
0s and 1s. I
They're
mean,
all
there's
very
really
similar. I mean,
there's
it-
nothing.
Maybe it's a
Right.
3 versus a 2, but they're all very similar because they were all
Right.
Yeah.
constructed
But
about the same time
I heard you
period.
say in there just a minute ago about maintaining some or patching some.
In the future, as we go forward, as we do this, we have nothing, not nothing, because we
Yeah.
do get a little bit of road mills there, but those extra 2 were to come back in 3 or 4 years when you do see the cracks and do the fill
Right.
and do the proper maintenance.
Yeah.
That's what we don't have. We
I-
didn't,
Yeah, I got that, but you were referencing current roads, and you mentioned just doing some bits and pieces on some of the current roads. Did I misunderstand that, or is there an area you're
I
thinking?
think if I was referring to curbing, maybe, is that what?
I don't know, you didn't say curbing or road, you just said like patching and repairing or whatever, so I wanted to make sure.
there's really no road you could patch.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make
I mean,
Village.
literally, you go and pull the pieces out and you're all the way down.
Yeah,
If
I
you-
see where you're coming from. It almost sounds like you're saying the rest of the roads in the village aren't getting touched for quite some time.
oh, no, well, no, there's
That's,
still.
that's kind of the way it came across.
Oh, I'm
is that,
sorry.
we might throw a little patch down here and there.
Oh,
and
no,
then
no, no.
Get to it when we can. You're
Okay.
talking about maintaining them once we
Yeah.
get there.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
And that's why this is so important for us to figure this out, because we're going to spend all of this time, money, to put down a brand-new road, and then we can basically do our snow plowing, our salting, and there's nothing to come back and really put into the care of
Right.
them.
Yeah, I think in the past, there was, when they were done in the mid-90s or early to mid-90s, there was I don't remember what year it was, but I think somewhere in the.
94, 96.
Late 90s, early 2000s, maybe in the early 2000s, a program to do some joint sealing and crack sealing and those kind of things, but what Tim does his maintenance on them, but that's, limited funding, and
Yep.
and so there's a need to do that so that they will last longer.
And there are grants out there for that, similar to the MDOT grant that we did apply for. There is a portion of it that you can apply for that sort of maintenance, but to get that every year and to basically, you can't guarantee that. And for us to rest on that maintenance would be there for every year when we needed it, it's not going to happen. MDOT's not going to continue to hand that over.
Right.
You might win it once or twice here or there, every 5 years, 3 years, but we cannot rely on that.
Right.
And that's where we were talking about our road mills. What are we at? You can have up to, was it 3 or 4? And currently, we're only at like less than 1.5. So I think it was 3, and we have room. That's where the 2 was supposed to come in at. So there's room there.
And then that could be used year after year
Yeah,
after year.
that was with the
so-
whole, we were supposed to get $350,000 with those 2 mills every year thereafter. Right. So,
So we'll have those scenarios that I want to verify the lane miles. Something didn't look right when he provided it to me last week, so I want to take a look a little closer at that and
Okay.
make sure that those are accurately included, so we get the graphs properly depicted.
Okay, perfect. Do you want to give an update on where we are with the current
Sure.
project?
Yeah, so I think Sunday, they added the leveling course, the first layer of asphalt to phases 1 and 2. So I think this week, they are going to do some of the structure repairs and final curb replacements. And then they are expecting to pave later this week, probably Saturday and Sunday again, so that we'd have the final wearing course placed on the first 2 phases, so that those will be generally completed at that point, and then the final cleanup or restoration would take place after that, and then they would move over to phase 2. I haven't heard a date when they may want to do the pavement removal, but that might happen, kind of, since they've gotten this far with the closing of getting the first layer of asphalt on the first 2 phases, they may want to, or may request to do some pavement removal concurrently in the 3rd phase to get that going, but I'm not sure what that date is yet. So, but by the end of this week, we should have the full 4 inches of HMA added to the first 2 phases. So I think they're about a week behind maybe on the 1st phase and maybe a week ahead on the 2nd phase, but I think all in all, they're doing a nice job to stay on schedule and keep everybody informed. So I think it's going very well, which we're glad to see.
Could you just clarify for those of us that may not know what, you said structural repair? Could you just define what you mean by structural repair, so someone doesn't think we're
Sure.
redoing a building?
No, yeah. So the utility structures. So we've got all the drainage, the catch basins that run along the curb lines, and then there's some sanitary and storm manholes that are within the pavement. So they plated those to drop them down so that they weren't driving over them during the construction. And then now that the first lift is on, they paved over that. They come out and cut those out, raise them up so that they'll meet the final wearing course, and then they'll pave right up to those as they go through with that. So that's what they're doing here over the next couple of days. One of their subcontractors will be in to complete those items of work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Hope
Thank
we didn't put you on
Glad
the
I made
spot
it.
too
Sorry
much.
for the confusion there, hectic day, so.
You're fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we moved into one of our additionals, F, cemetery/retention pond. Trustee Fowler.
Yes, and Clerk Trapp, thank you for getting back with me. After our last meeting last month, I asked Clerk Trapp to check into the Romeo Community Schools' usage of our retention pond to see if there was any type of contract or agreement in place. And since that time, before I sent my email, or after I sent my email to Clerk Trapp, to see if she had any discovery, Justin Parker and I went up to the area and we looked it over, and we noticed that there were some man-made additions to the property in itself, like the culvert. It's not a natural runoff for the water to go into that area, but there is the installation of a culvert. So that means that the property had to be altered in some kind of way. So is there any type of agreement that you come across?
I have not found an agreement. I did reply to your email asking
Yes.
maybe if you knew of a time frame, because I'm thinking at this time it might just be within meeting minutes. I'm not finding any separate documentation between the schools and the Village of Romeo, because that's technically the Village of Romeo property. It's not considered cemetery property. But with that, I'm not finding any paperwork. But if we can narrow it down to a time frame, that might be helpful to find in the minutes.
Well, if there is that addition of that culvert, have you checked with the Romeo Community Schools yet? Because they probably have some type of construction activity in order to install that.
It would still be under us, because that's our property.
Correct, but they installed it.
Correct, but they would have to have had permission from us, because only on school property would they be able to bypass us. But no, nothing has come up yet. And I did ask Tim Metz a few times if he can jar his memory, and we're still, in communication with trying to figure out based on your request, what information can we narrow it down to?
Register of Deeds in Macomb County, maybe, or?
That's what I was gonna ask, Mark, would there be anywhere that this would be recorded, like at the county or state level?
It should have been, if there's a formal easement that the village granted to the schools to run the culvert or construct the culvert and accept the flow of water from the school property onto the village property, the best practice would be in writing. Both boards, the village council and the school board, would have approved that, and it would be recorded. whether that was done or not, I don't know. I do not recall ever participating in something like that or drafting anything like that. So if it exists, the best practice would be to record it, but sometimes things are done, written, signed, and then somehow they don't make it to the register of deeds. So, but in the normal course, yeah, easements are typically recorded. It's in everybody's best interest to record it. The school wants to be able to rely on it, and the village would want to know what easement or easements it's granted.
So with that man-made addition culvert on our property, then there's, I mean, it's not a natural runoff from their football fields to our retention, or the lower area of it. They've actually installed that. So what's the, I mean, like you said, there should be something in writing somewhere. But
Well,
they've actually-
hopefully there would be, and if, and I would also hope that whether it's in writing and whether it's been recorded, that it would have been done with permission. I would hope that it wasn't what they used to call in the trades a late night construction project. And, but I don't know. I don't know. I can just tell you that the lower line property has the legal obligation to accept the natural flow of water from property that's higher than the lower property. And sometimes the example that I use is if you spill a glass of water on a flat table, wherever it runs, the other side of the table, that property owner has to accept it. But if you take a hose and blow the same amount of water, no, because you not only change the intensity of the flow, you've changed the direction of the flow. It's not a natural flow. So I don't know how that was installed, when it was installed, whether it was with permission and maybe just not well documented. I don't know. I wish I had the answer, but I don't.
I believe it was installed when the school put in, there's a underground retention pond there underneath the football practice field there, and that is the overflow for that retention pond.
Are you talking the upper practice field, which is behind here?
Way in the back, yeah.
Or are you talking still on the school property,
On the school property.
by the one closest to their parking?
Right behind the-
Not where we used to practice up the hill here?
No, the tennis courts, baseball fields over there.
Okay, I just wanted
Yeah,
to,
right to the west of the cemetery, right where that,
okay,
Yep.
okay.
Along that
Just wanted to
path.
verify,
where that culvert comes in.
because we used to practice up here, on the top of the hill. That's why. 'Cause that would be awesome.
So I guess I'm saying, Mr. Clark, could you assist her in
Sure.
trying to find
Okay.
out what's
Right.
going on?
Because in doing research for Thompson Place, yeah, I looked at anything that said Romeo Schools, and I'm not coming up with anything in regards to that retention pond so far.
Okay, I'd like to
Well,
go.
one practical and maybe effective way to get an answer would be to contact Romeo Community Schools and ask them politely, I'm not talking about smash mouth, but just ask them politely, by what ability or authority do you run your water onto our property?
Right, as if we were to undo it and put the burden of
Right.
onto them.
Instead of the attorney asking that question, can you, I guess when attorneys get involved in it,
Yeah.
everybody starts lawyering
Right.
up, so could you make that
Sure.
inquiry?
But what was the time frame? Do you think that was?
What was the
So I
school-
can give them information that they can
Well,
better
let's have
respond?
it. Let me do some digging.
Early 2000s,
Okay,
maybe 2, 3, somewhere in there.
okay.
Okay, Clerk Trapp will look into that.
I think before then,
Yeah.
because if, where you're talking, that upper
That's what I'm
parking and,
thinking, it's
I remember
older.
when I first started, I started in '03, they were having a problem with the bank of the retention pond washing out.
okay,
And one of the jobs I was assigned to do was put some fabric down, put some stone in there to keep it from washing out. But I'm just assuming it was around that time frame.
okay.
And my second thing on this Romeo Cemetery is, is I noticed you keep saying that we're out of plots as far as we're out of properties to bury our locals. Coming off Morton Street, turning into Reed and.
I think so.
Hermanville, that corner right there.
Mhm.
There's about 40 feet from the fence to the first grade, 40, 50 feet. And the property runs all the way to West St. Clair Street.
Mhm.
I made a couple phone calls and talked to the past clerk, and he said they were going to actually maybe survey that and plot that, but, have you looked at that issue there or not?
We briefly talked about it, but we can go forward. Like I reiterated that their main focus is the roads, but we can definitely look into that parcel, that part of the property to see how many spaces that could be. I know it's kind of slopey, so the full burials, it might be a little,
Towards West St. Clair.
towards West St. Clair, it gets really hilly, but yep.
There's things that can be done. I mean, there's property in that cemetery, and I know one time Christine asked you to check out some of the vacant property, so we drove through there, and there's a lot of vacant spots.
Right, but I know also in the past meetings, the cemetery board was interested in using vacant spots for columbariums too.
Well, there's a location for the columbariums, but, I mean, throughout the cemetery, there are some big vacancies.
Okay. I can pass that information along to the cemetery board.
Well, and just because and not that I'm involved in any of that, but just because a spot isn't used doesn't mean it's not purchased and
Right.
intended to be used.
Well, correct. And at one time, I think, when Christine was president, she asked you to look into those vacancies.
Right, but
Did you
like
ever- Did you ever do that?
look into what vacancies?
Well, as far as who was
Who
using
had
properties.
purchased and who didn't?
Yeah, it's buybacks of burial.
Yeah, we were looking into that. And, sometimes we do get buybacks that residents, life changes and they're no longer in the area.
Well, I know she instructed you to do it, and you kind of fell off the table with it, so.
Well, it's on my to-do list, but like I said, I'm following the cemetery board's directions of redoing the roads first.
And as far as your roads, do you have a work order in? I look over by the podium, and I see that big ditch there.
Nope, as I mentioned in my report earlier in the evening, that we are waiting for the RFP bid package to be edited to include either pavement and/or the crushed limestone, and we're waiting for that bid package to be completed so we can publish it.
Why don't you just put a work order and just have that part patched right now? I mean, that's a simple addition. something
Okay.
you can do.
Tim, can you patch that, please?
I mean, is
Thank
that
you.
something our cemetery staff can do?
No, we don't have the hot box, they'd have the hot box.
They got- I mean, just to fix it, so it's not just there.
Mhm.
It's-
Is that, yeah, I agree, after driving it through there a few times, and I'm not gonna say a ton of residents, but, a handful of residents just complaining about some of the potholes, and then also just the condition of the,
Well, you're welcome to direct those residents to the village office, because I haven't heard from them.
and the conditions of the grass and the trimming and stuff. If we could just advise to get that.
I thought we were just talking about the roads, not the overall condition of the cemetery,
Well,
but
that's why
okay,
I was trying to continue before you cut me off, but that's okay.
I see.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
While we're on the subject, I have a question for Tim, if I could ask you. Outside the cemetery, the sidewalk and the curbs going in, the drive curbs, is that the cemetery staff who maintains that, or the DPW?
As to,
The approaches.
Like the approaches and the sidewalks outside the black gate?
Talking about all the grass and stuff that's
Yeah, as far as
growing up.
grass, weeds,
Oh, okay.
grass, weeds, that's cemetery.
Okay.
Sitting around there is cemetery. I mean, if it comes, places we.
concrete.
Like in the wintertime, I mean, we clear the snow,
Mhm.
Mhm.
for the cemetery, the workers out there in the wintertime, but we clear the snow.
Okay, but they cut the grass and edge.
They cut the grass outside the fence.
Yeah, just like any other fence, you set it just inside, so you're still responsible for the other side, and
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that should, definitely be addressed. Is there any way we can get like a monthly accounting and hours spent? Or like a report, kind of like we see from the other departments on where the man hours are being spent in the cemetery and what they're doing?
I can run that by the cemetery board to see if that is something they would like to see addressed.
We gotta make a motion, we kind of, should be provided if requested by this board.
Well, I only have one person in the cemetery, so, I mean, I'm not sure what kind of a report outside of him doing everything I can give you.
Aren't you the sexton? You're in charge of.
I am the sexton, I am in charge, but I have one maintenance personnel up at the cemetery at this
Just
time.
ask for a report, that's all.
Okay, well, I will run that by the cemetery board.
Thank you.
Mhm.
When is the next cemetery meeting? So if anyone wanted to attend, they could attend it.
As I mentioned in my report earlier in the night, as soon as we get that RFP bid package, we're hoping to have it within the next 2 weeks, hopefully before Peach Festival.
Okay, so be on the lookout if you want to attend the cemetery meeting.
Thank you.
The next one is the
My reconsideration?
reconsideration. I couldn't read my writing.
Yeah, the reason why I brought this up here is to the fact that property there on Sisson Street, I said before that, let's sell it. Now, the reconsideration vote would actually go towards looking at this property to either sell it or, to get from up underneath it right now at this point, to list it with a realtor. I think that property right now in the village of Romeo, we could use this property to sell it to some residential builder. It's a couple acres of land. Now, we have other properties of which I'd love for the the Parks Board to look at, like the one on First Street, and maybe joining a collaboration with the county on the rails to trails, something that's already there, but this property, the village could recoup some of the funds and use these funds in other efforts to fund some of these things that are going on. I think they're a lot right now on Dorsey Street just sold for $70,000, an 80 by 100 lot. So I'm looking at this land saying, I make $175,000, $180,000 or 2 acres of land in the village of Romeo. So that was my thought here in this process, is that, the board could continue we have lots of assets in the village and outside the village, and the board can continue to look at upgrading these properties. I think that First Street property probably would be, it's trees and everything else, and this is a big piece of vacant land to where it's gonna cost more to develop it. And that's my thought here as far as why I wanted to bring this up and for discussion, as far as my thought towards the Sisson Street property.
Are you talking about last month's meeting where we voted?
Yes, I voted we voted to
Make it a park?
make it a park. Now, in order for us to sell this property, the people vote on this. I mean, it's out of the council's hands since we make it a park. Now, if there's any type of collaboration with Parks and Recreation, this council couldn't make that decision. Is that correct, Mark? The residents would have to make that decision?
Are you asking if there's a collaboration with Parks and Rec, would the village be involved in developing that property as a park?
No, my question is, we voted to make this a park designation.
Correct.
And if Parks and Recreation was interested in this this property to venture into a park, we wouldn't have that authority to do that collaboration. It would have to go up to the vote to the people.
No.
No.
No?
The only disposition that would require a vote of the people is if it's a park and you decide to sell the property. There's a specific provision in the General Law Village Act that gives the council control over properties and assets of the village. One specific restriction is that except for a park, that cannot be sold without a vote of the people. So if you declare it a park, which you did, Parks and Rec is interested in developing it as a park, you could collaborate, enter into an agreement with them that sharing responsibility for the development of it as a park. how it's going to appear, what amenities it might have, you would not be deprived of the ability to participate in that because you would still be in control of the property.
Okay. So, motion was made last month,
By who?
and, excuse me?
By whom?
I think I
Isn't it the person who made the motion that is the one who
I
can?
think I
And
No.
I can
No,
have
it
a
needs to
discussion,
be
I can talk.
Yeah,
whoever's,
no, I'm just saying.
pardon
I'm
me,
just asking.
it's the majority, but go ahead, Mark, clarify what reconsideration
Well, I
and the
did-
steps.
The reconsideration would have to be at the next meeting, so if you declared it a park in July, we're in August, so we're at the next meeting. And the motion to reconsider has to be made by somebody who voted in the affirmative, in the prevailing position. I don't remember what the vote was, if it was 7-0, 6-1, 5-2.
I can't find it. 4-1.
4-1, then it would, somebody in the group of four that voted in favor of it would have to make the motion to reconsider.
Oh, yeah, I
So,
wasn't here, so
Oh, I was.
I know we were waiting on some surveys, which I don't know if we ever got back before. I thought we were gonna wait. Me and Matt made the motion to allow funds to be spent, to have a survey put out, and we never got anything back. We never saw any feedback from anyone, so why'd we even spend that money on that? And then if we're not sure what's going on with it, I don't know why it was such a quick motion, so I'd be in favor of a reconsideration, even though I can't make that reconsideration motion at this point until we know further from feedback from residents. Is Parks and Rec seriously interested in doing something? Or is it just something they said they'd look at before we move forward with making it a park? And then it would have to be a vote of the people to make a change at that point,
Not to make a change, to sell it.
to sell it.
can I ask, Mr. Clark?
To sell it. So we could, let's say, in a year, motion to make it not a park
Mr. Clark, can I ask you to,
and then sell it?
Mr. Clark?
No. they
Can I
have
ask you to
vote.
come
Yeah,
to the
might as
podium,
well
please?
Undo it
Yeah.
now and
I just have a question.
Well, I was saying, in general, this is not public comment,
not
so we're
public
not
comment?
also
Okay.
reaching out to the public.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
I thought you meant that Clark.
Oh,
So,
this-
we,
okay, Mr.
if I understand, you could reconsider, undo the park piece, gather some of this information that people are asking for, and then always go back to it or move on, right? But if they don't make a decision tonight, then it remains what it is. The reconsideration vote can't go beyond tonight.
Correct, and you would need, if you choose, you need two motions, one to reconsider. So somebody, again, who voted in the majority would have to make a motion to reconsider. It would need support, and that would have to pass. And then you would address the substantive motion. Is it a park, is it not a park? What is it? But if you're doing something tonight, you're gonna have to do, well, you don't have to, but your procedure would be twofold.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion, or are we discussing, done discussing?
I'll make the motion to reconsider vote for the Assistant Street property from a park to sell the property. That's the intention.
Is there support to the reconsideration?
Does support have to come from someone that voted in favor or just a motion?
I don't believe the support has to, let me just double check and see. But I know the motion does.
While Mr. Clark is looking, though, what I hear are two separate things. I hear you saying, let's reconsider, let's stop for a minute, look at facts, do a little more research. But what I hear from you throwing out the reconsideration is, no, you want to sell it. So how does this line up? If you want to stop and reconsider, I don't hear this lining
Well,
up.
if we stop, reconsider, table to have further discussion on a sale or get the feedback from the residents that I think we were waiting for.
Okay, I could go there.
I did-
Your rules of procedure state, it shall be in order for any council member voting in the majority to move for a reconsideration of the vote on any question at that meeting or at the next succeeding meeting of the council. It does not say who can or must be a support or offer support for the motion, so I'm saying the moving council member has to be somebody who voted in the majority, but the support does not.
To reconsider with, how'd you put that, Justin? You did so well with words.
To get the feedback from the surveys and to look at future options.
No, I do finally have the surveys in my possession. I gave you a few the other day when I got those.
More came in today.
Yep, got them today.
But again, I want to caution you about putting bells and whistles on the motion to reconsider. You have a resolution that was passed,
So just a motion to reconsider then.
and the motion is to reconsider that which was done last meeting.
Okay.
And that's it,
So
for the reconsideration.
Just
What
straight
you do,
reconsideration.
depending on the outcome of that
Okay.
vote, what you do subsequently is up to you, but
Yeah.
you don't want to dress
Put
up
it in,
the
take it
motion.
out.
It's
Right.
a very narrow and specific motion.
Just a motion to reconsider.
So motion by Fowler,
I'll second.
support by Rousseau.
I
Zach,
thought it
if
had
you
to
don't
be
mind me asking really quick, because you made the motion last meeting, why did it change of heart?
Looking at the property here, like I said, I think that we have other assets here in the village. With the schools right across the street from this property, there's access to playground areas, parks areas. It's kind of a redundant situation right there on top of each other. So we had, during the previous administration, we had a couple bids for the residential property. It was done incorrectly, but we had the bids, so. And the number was up there quite a bit for that property. So, like I said, we have other assets here in the village that I think the Parks Committee can look at.
Well,
Like I said, it's a redundance of the activities, of which is right across the street, the school property.
We don't have other assets, we have the potential of obtaining other assets.
Correct.
But that's our only valuable asset that the task force identified, and
I think the First
Right.
Street property he was discussing is village property.
Yes.
so I'd like to put in my 2 cents, if I may. These people worked very hard to come up with this. They've got people who are willing to support them. We passed it last month, and I think we should just stick to what they want. And doesn't it take somebody who, as far as the second goes for Zach's reconsideration, doesn't it have to come from someone who voted?
We just asked
Four?
Mark to
No,
explain
Mark just
that.
just
said
the
no.
motion, not the
Okay.
support.
If you recall, when this initially came up, the board wanted to sell the property, and the only reason it wasn't is because of how it came about with the real estate agent and what was discovered. At that time, it would have been sold, according to what the board wanted to do. So, and the only reason it wasn't was because of that situation. And we are now financially still in need of funds in our community. We have a lot that's a need versus a want, and we have to weigh want versus need. And so I just ask that you consider that.
If there's no more discussion, could you call the roll, please, clerk?
You know, this trustees board is going down the tube.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stowe. This is,
More.
we're not taking public comment. Mr. Stowe, please.
The style is the name.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Yes.
Rousseau,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Care,
No.
President Poznanski.
No.
Motion tied, 3-3, so motion fails.
Okay, moving into our new business. Our MJC Marketplace alley closure request. This is brought to us at Peach Fest. They would like to close down the alley temporarily. They're going to be putting stuff behind the building. You have our permit from the clerk here. The drawing of how it will all be placed. You have a letter of consideration from Ms. Osbold. And then a police report following that. So,
Chief, do you have any issues with this temporary alley closure?
As long as it's, just a temporary for that day, I told her, you know.
I think it's for the whole week,
You worked
weekend.
through that before when you wanted to even shut down after, you know, a year or so.
Right.
This is for 5 days.
This is for, 5 days.
This is for the whole Peach Festival thing. I don't really have an issue with it. I'll do whatever you guys want, as long as there's access to the other businesses in the area, which they're not asking to close down the one going behind her building or coming off of, Bailey Street, so there's still access. You know, the accident report that she's giving you, that was a freak thing.
And did that not happen while it was closed? Before it was reopened?
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, it was January.
I believe it happened while the road was closed.
The alley did not open back up till the end of February, and this police report is from
That's why the gentleman
January.
didn't turn around.
That's why he hit it, because it was closed.
He was driving like crazy. He was driving
Okay.
crazy fast too, up that alley. So he
So
had to
regardless
turn.
if it's closed or not,
Yeah, he
it
was
was an
going pretty
issue.
fast to hit that.
some concerns I have is that closing down her entire parking area for her off-street parking, her or him, what does that do to the additional parking around there? I mean, I think there's 8 to 10 spots that you're gonna close down that would be reserved for your residents and customers. And now we're just putting that extra weight onto
Well, that's
something
her-
else.
That's her parking lot though.
But it's part of off-street parking, it's in the ordinances to have sufficient off-street parking where feasible. And this is off-street parking, not just for business, but for residential. And you're displacing those people.
Displace her vehicles that would park in her parking lot into the general
Okay.
parking lot.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a concern, that we're gonna put additional parking through the busy weekend and public parking or other people's parking so that she can make more money? I don't know. It's a concern that I saw when I saw that there was the whole parking.
If I understand the map properly, she's not looking to use the alley.
No.
She's just
No.
looking to close it. So, and I'm wondering, because this particular business does a lot of interesting things to promote the business, if we could suggest that they look at a long-term solution to protect that route that they're worried about, if they want to put up flower boxes or fencing or whatever, so that the alley isn't continuing to be a concern for them.
Right, because I believe we've had a similar request from them
Frequently.
not too long ago, and that one was denied at that point in time.
They were asking at that time to close both alleyways.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
do,
Sorry, I think, given the weekend, 7 or 8
people.
displaced spots does add some extra issue to the surrounding parking, but I think it's safer, especially if she's planning events that a lot of people go to. I think it's safer for the foot traffic to have it closed. 8 spots is a pretty minuscule
I mean, the big thing would
offset.
be the residential
It's Peach Fest.
renters there.
I mean, there's hundreds
Residential-
of cars.
The people that are renting there, I think that's part of an ordinance, that you have to have off-street parking for residents if you're renting.
If you look at the layout, she has the campers and the trucks cordoning off her parking lot. So there's camper, truck. It's a natural barrier as it is between these are like actual campers that are coming in. I've seen them like little retro.
Mm.
So she's built a natural corner fence, which
But-
was a great idea to protect that area.
Right, but the foot traffic's coming from downtown. They're not
Everywhere.
coming from north into the backside of that area. They're coming from that
Right.
alley.
The
I think
foot
it's just
traffic's
safer.
everywhere. We can't,
Yeah, I mean, we can't close down the entire town
Yeah,
for the
I
whole
mean,
weekend. I mean, we
that's-
could try. It might be a future plan.
yeah.
What's that?
I do on Monday.
Well, maybe we should look at doing it for the whole
Yeah,
weekend
I
then next
mean-
year.
I'd be willing to make the motion to accept this alley closure request for those 5 days.
We'll support that.
We have a motion by Bartholomew, support by Care. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
How many
Okay.
nays? Can you show of hands,
We
please?
have
Three.
1, 3 opposed, 3, 4.
3 to 3, the motion fails.
Yep, guess so. Opposed, Poznanski, Parker, Russo. Okay, we have our Parks and Rec event street closure request. This is North Rawls, that happens behind the Village Park there. Just Rawls, not behind the post office. It's for Kid Fest, only for Saturday the 2nd from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Make that motion?
Support.
Motion by Bartholomew, support by Parker. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. I always raise my hand so the people can see what's going on. Our tree board appointment. I received a letter of interest from Betty Cassidy. I have that here for you. So it is my putting up Miss Cassidy for the tree board.
Motion to accept the.
Support?
Yeah.
Motion by Fowler, support by Bartholomew. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank
None
you.
there.
Meg, would that
Thank
make
you, Betty.
the board full then, or no?
Yes, that gives us 5.
Okay, thank you.
We have Lisa, Sharon, Mr. Stowe. Yes, that gives us 5. We have our Romeo Park Citizen Task Force. I have in here, Ms. Cassidy also had a letter of interest. However, after hearing our presentation at last month and also having a meeting in the office with myself, the clerk, and Mr. Stowe, I do not find that the task force has any more interest or has found any other portions of the village that they see as viable parks. So to me, at this point, to put anybody else on the task force does not seem necessary. And I even call into question if we're done with the task force. So that's where we're at.
So,
We're
I
gonna
mean, you
discuss
did
it.
state, I mean, we're back to the task force. We did get surveys back.
I got a handful of them on Friday, and then I got a whole envelope today.
Okay.
That
And-
should be, I'm told, is all of them.
and do we have a receipt of funds spent based on the motion we made?
That
I
would
think
be
it's up to 500.
between the clerk and the treasurer. If we've received the receipts of the newspaper and the monies that were put into the survey for the
Don't
task
believe I got
force.
the invoice for the survey. Let me double check. We might have gotten the invoice for the record newspaper survey.
Yeah,
I know
that's-
there was one expenditure that came through.
I believe that
There
was
were
all.
2.
Did you see any?
I saw in the minutes.
Well, no, you and I were looking at it. There was an older one, so I don't think I got one for the original survey. I'll have to double check my affidavits of publications.
Okay.
Well, if you don't feel it's needed, Shelley, your thoughts, I mean, you sit on the task force, do you feel that the task force is needed any further?
I think it was shared at the last meeting that they couldn't identify any other land. So no, I mean, at this point, we're out of land and
Well, then, I'll make a motion to dissolve the Romeo Park Citizen Task Force upon, or can I put a date, within 2 weeks, so that there's time to collect all receipts and other information needed from the task force?
Well, even if they're dissolved, doesn't mean that they no longer have to turn over what's in the
And
possession.
then I'll just make the motion to dissolve the Romeo Citizen Task Force. Park Task Force, sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Parker, second by Rousseau. Do we have all in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we have any opposed? One opposition and trustee Fowler.
Thank you for your time. Just put together a lot of good stuff.
It'll be nice.
Moving into our letter E, 2024 to 26, Macomb County Urban County Renewal Resolution. This was Clerk Trapp asked me to put this on here. We were supposed to do it.
In July.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this came from the county, the Macomb County Urban County Renewal Resolution. This is to take effect at 24 to 26. We were one of the chosen communities to be a part of this resolution. It's not every community in Macomb County. So this is, all the language is all spelled out for us in regards to what this entails. It's a couple-page document, and they are asking, once upon approval, for our village attorney to sign it, because all the villages have to have it by the village attorney. And just all the explanations of how this would go with us. This is kind of works hand in hand with the CDBG funds that comes from the same department at Macomb County that I work with for the community development block grants.
So we need motion, resolution?
Yes, let me just grab this. Yes, we would need a motion to approve the resolution, and then I can send everything to the county once I get signatures. It looks like there's two different, there's an agreement, and then there's the actual resolution.
That's what I was trying to determine.
So once the resolution is approved, I will send everything in the signed agreement over.
So why did they choose us, do you know?
I do not. No, it was a quick phone call from Stephanie Burgess from Macomb County. And she just said us as the Village of Romeo was chosen to participate. I do not know what the criteria was. It was like they chose us. We did not like put ourselves on a list or intentionally
Okay.
seek ourselves out.
I did see in here, it talks about if you participate with the Macomb County, there are some areas of the state you cannot participate with. Do you know what the pros and cons and benefits one way or the other are?
No, I do not. I can get that information from Stephanie. She did not elaborate on that, of any pros and cons with that.
On the front page of the letter, it says to be eligible for the funds through the county. However, you'll be ineligible to apply for grants under the state CDBG program while you're part of the urban county. So what
Okay.
would that
Well,
eliminate us?
we really don't have many opportunities or areas in the village that qualify for CDBG. Whenever we get those funds, we allocate it out to local charities because the restrictions that are imposed onto the village and the criteria, we really don't meet it. So that's why
So have
for
our
us-
funds come from the state or from the county?
they come from the state through the county.
Because this says you'll be ineligible to apply for grants under the state program. So were
Because
we
it's doing-
applying through the state before or through the county?
We usually do it through the county. The county
Okay.
takes control of the allotted funds, and then they
And they
set up the
kinda-
programs and criteria.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
So-
any homeowner can come through us or the county in order to apply for the home dollars?
That is correct. I believe it's straight through the county. They have the programs and opportunities for that.
I had a couple of our residents that contacted the county, and the county told them they had a waiting list.
That I don't know, they have certain amount of funds allocated, and I don't know what their criteria is either.
So there's not a certain amount that's supposed to be allocated to the Village of Romeo residents?
Not directly, no. It's countywide. Yeah, it's countywide. That's why, like I said, when we get our CDBG funds, we don't meet the criteria, and that's why we outsource it towards, McCrest and Samaritan House get it.
More than what we get, because we're off into a different situation.
Okay.
These residents want work done on their house, which is a bricks and mortar.
That is correct, and they have the programs for that, and I was unaware of a waiting list, though.
Yeah, they contacted me last week and indicated that the county told them they were on a waiting list.
Oh,
Do we need motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
Your mic's not on.
Yes, we do need a motion to,
Does it
this
need to be
resolution.
this month, or can it be next month?
well, my thought is since we were supposed to do it in July,
needs to be
Yeah.
this month.
I'll make the motion to renew the Urban County membership through the 2026 program here.
Second.
motion by Care, second by Fowler. All in favor? Aye.
Do you need to, does that resolution need to be read?
Want
Required
to read-
resolution, last page, and that be the motion?
That would be up to the president. I was not given specific instructions in
Oh, it
regards
says
to that.
Required resolution on the last page?
Right.
Gotcha. I can read it. If we want to make sure we do
Okay.
everything right. Okay, we have the 2024, gentlemen, excuse me, will I read, please? The 2024-26 Macomb County Urban County Renewal Required Resolution. Whereas the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, has been delegated the responsibility of administering the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program, which provides federal funds to assist the community development activities in urban areas. And whereas the County of Macomb, as an eligible urban county, applies and receives CDBG funds to administer within the county's unincorporated areas and local governments that participate in Macomb County's Urban County CDBG program. And whereas the Village of Romeo does not qualify to receive CDBG funds directly. As a non-entitlement jurisdiction, the city/township must partner with the County of Macomb in order to receive CDBG funds. And whereas the Village of Romeo must renew the cooperation agreement, known as Exhibit 1, to participate in the Macomb County's Urban County CDBG program during the next 3 years from July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2027 in order to be eligible to receive CDBG funds, as well as be eligible to participate in the Home Investment Partnership Program, known as HOME. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Romeo, Michigan hereby approve the village's participation in the Macomb County Urban County CDBG program for the fiscal years 2024 to 2026 in the cooperative agreement including automatic renewal provisions, and authorizes the highest elected official, known as the president or designee, to sign the cooperative agreement.
Let's play ball.
It's a lot of stuff to say. We were all in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed. Okay, we have our DPW office equipment purchase. This was brought about as we move into our new era of water bills.
Make a motion. Accept the offer to purchase the.
You would like to purchase as opposed to the lease, because there's two options. Purchase would be preferred, you do save a bit.
If we purchased after that 5-year period, would we still pay for that maintenance program after?
Right, I think it only locks us in at that price though for 5 years.
It
If
would
you were,
probably triple by then, but yeah, okay.
but that's where, I think for the 5 years, it's at 50-35, and then after the 5 years, it might fall off, and then you have to look at
Yeah.
what that is.
Still worth it.
Correct.
Okay. So are you still making the motion to purchase? I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Fowler, second by Care to purchase the DPW office equipment.
Quick question, I don't know, Tim, don't we have an extra printer that we just paid a ton of money to have fixed up for that the DDA was using?
No, what we paid for was their printing. Their
We
copies.
didn't have an additional printer after we bought ours?
We do have the old one of which they used, and we paid a lot of money for them to make copies.
So where's that machine?
Sitting upstairs. I had the gentleman who is the contact here look at it. He says it's a dinosaur, it's antiquated.
Okay.
The best I can do for you is take it to the garbage to be recycled. I said, okay. I go, well, because if we could give it to them and it was useful, he goes, they're going to run into the same problem you did.
Okay.
you can't get anything out of it, and there's no more parts, they don't make it anymore, blah, blah, blah. It's,
Okay.
Sold.
they're gonna run into the same problem. You can't get parts for it, and they're
It's obsolete.
ceasing to make the ink cartridges for it. It's only gonna be, yeah, so much.
Printers, cell phones, all the same.
Will you do the roll, however, with this?
Fowler?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
President Poznanski?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Rousseau?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, moving into our DDA Social District Research Committee. Oh, wait, sorry, DPW vehicle purchase request. We were hoping to get a little more time out of this, however, it just kind of broke. So we have a couple quotes here to fix it versus a purchase price. None of which we want, however, this vehicle is needed.
Purchase is 6 to 8 months out. That's the order.
Yeah, so even, and you can only get the certain pricing if
The
you,
only way we can get that pricing is if the dealer has one on the lot or it gets ordered. And right now, he said it's
Couple questions.
6 to 8
I'm
months
sorry.
to get one.
We just looked at Ford, we didn't look at,
I only look at Ford because that dealer has the My Deal contract, which the legwork's already done. Ford can guarantee the lowest price.
can we reach out just so we have three, and that's a large purchase amount. And then also I see we used to have a 3/4 ton, and the new one requested is a 1 ton, is that,
It's a little bigger van, it's the stand up,
yeah,
so it would be more equipment in there.
so you will need the extra
Yeah.
weight. Yeah, I would just like to see, if possible,
The last time I did pickups, I tried doing Dodge and Chevy, they don't do government pricing, or they didn't do government pricing. And I don't know, I think Dodge does have a stand-up van,
yeah.
but like I said, to get the government pricing, that's
Can
what
we
my
do-
deal is for.
Yeah,
My deal is to save me, Dan, Al, time from going dealer to dealer to get pricing.
So that,
I know, our purchasing policy, and that's a big amount, right? And
If you want me to waste my time to get pricing, that's fine, but that would.
Tim, right,
That's what my
tell me,
deal is in
I can use this,
for.
and I'll reach out if that's okay. And I'll get a couple other
That's what my
quotes.
deal is for, is to save, to guarantee the best prices out there, so that we don't have to spend our time. It's already been done for us, that's what it's for.
well, and then we were talking about, we have other vehicles we can
Fix up?
sell, try and make a little bit back in order to help bring this in. Where we're at is, we're just out of this vehicle right now. So things are,
will we get
Just-
anything for it?
Using it's got a bad cylinder, it's only got 50 pounds of compression on one cylinder, so we
So-
don't go far with it, so we're running it, using it.
Will we get
till
anything,
it's done.
will we get anything for the 2012, or, I mean, minimal at best?
Couple grand maybe. I mean, as is, it basically needs more.
Would that get traded into the Imlay City Ford, or would private sale?
They won't,
They don't
it'd have to be a private sale. They won't
Okay.
take it in and trade.
Right, okay.
So, Tim, the two estimates you have to repair it, there's about a $3,000 difference. Are they,
One is actual Ford dealer, which is always gonna be higher. One's local repair shop that we always use as DPW.
but it's the same work at both
It's the same
places? Okay, thank you.
You're just, like anything, you're paying dealer price as the
Yeah.
aftermarket. So if you would like, I can try and get quotes, but like I said, the last time I tried with.
I thought that was a bigger
One
vehicle.
of the trucks, the Chrysler dealer down here said, we don't do government pricing. And we had a rights also told me that they do not do government pricing.
So you've been down that road already?
It's been several years ago,
Yeah,
But that's
or I think it
what-
was with the
that's what
plow
my
trucks.
deal is for, is they have certain dealers that guarantee the best pricing, and the pricing is actually less than what the dealer paid for.
So if we didn't get dealer pricing for the same vehicle, what's your estimate that it would be?
It would probably, without my deal pricing, you're probably looking closer to 70,000.
Okay, thanks.
Because government pricing is actually under what the dealer pays for.
Wow.
And what will you do for the next 8 months?
We're still using the one, hopefully it keeps running, like I said, it's still running on 7 cylinders. It is, only got 50 pounds of compression in 1 cylinder.
So, the one here from, was it ME Automotive for 8200 compared to purchasing at, what, 57? That's like $50,000.
That's why I'm bringing it to you.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel that,
You
that,
guys decide if you wanna put $8,000 to $10,000 in a $3,000 van, or purchase a new one? I mean, you put $8,000
So,
or $10,000.
What's gonna happen
in,
next
in,
year?
in running condition,
You're still gonna have a
in a
$3,000.
running condition, that van is not $3,000, right? If it, before it broke, you would've got more than 3,000 with 55,000 miles on it, right? The 2010 that I sold 2 years ago went for like 14.
2012.
According to Russ, it's
I'll make the motion that we move forward with the DPW vehicle purchase.
it's not a $10,000 van, if that's what you're thinking, because it's only got 50,000 miles on it, they're all village miles.
Okay.
If I can ask, and I'm not super familiar with the industry, how the process would work, can't you order the van? And if your concern is other pricing, I mean,
We don't
is
have
there
to-
any financial commitment if you
No,
do order the
We do
van?
not have to accept it if we order it and we change our minds, we do
Right,
not have to
right.
accept it, we don't. I mean, it's not like you ordering a vehicle where you have to put like $500 deposit down on it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's not refundable. If we don't take it, we're not on
I
it.
see where you're going.
If it's 8 months
Yeah.
out, let's order the thing. I
That's
don't
what
know
I'm
what the
thinking.
process would be like on our board of
Yeah.
approving it if we don't end up wanting to buy it, but
Then you're a month
let's
behind.
approve it, get the clock start ticking, and if we find another solution in the meantime, so be it. So I'll
Then-
second Nathan's motion to approve the purchase in the amount of $56,957 for the 2014 Transit.
So you're motioning
20
to
24.
purchase it, not
Correct.
just order it?
Yeah.
Right?
Purchase it.
Yeah, purchase
Which,
it,
same
order it,
thing.
yeah.
They'll have to order it.
And if,
Well, no, because Nolan said just order it and then,
well, purchasing it at this point is just ordering it. It's the same thing. If we don't fulfill that in 8 months because we find something else, we can rescind that at that time. But yeah, for now, we would make the motion to purchase it.
So we have a motion by Bartholomew, second by Care. Could you please call the roll?
Yep, Bartholomew,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
No.
Rousseau,
no.
Fowler,
No.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Motion is 3-3 tied, motion fails.
Okay. I guess we'll get a couple more quotes and,
Suggestions on when it quits?
I'd like to motion
I think we're in the same mindset here.
that you order it,
Thank you.
and then when the time comes, bring it forward, and then we can make the motion to approve the purchase of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think we could have accomplished it the same way with the previous motion. I mean, if
No,
it's 8 months
Your motion
out.
was to actually
Purchase.
purchase it. So
Right,
if it
but we have 8 months. If we find a better solution next month, we can just rescind that motion. But the clock's ticking if we don't order this
So
van today.
I'll make a motion to order the 2024 Transit 350 cargo van with the understanding we'll attempt to gain additional quotes prior.
okay, so we have a motion by Parker,
Sure, I'll support it.
support by Care. Could you please call the roll?
Parker,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
President Poznanski,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Rousseau.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-1.
Okay, moving on to our DDA Social District Research Committee. This is on here. The DDA would like to look into this idea of a social district and has requested a liaison from this board. Would anybody like to volunteer to be said liaison?
No, I was at that meeting, Meg, and President Poznanski, I apologize. If they're willing to look into some of the basic requirements, I don't know if anyone on here needs to put any more legwork in that, like I said, I've already done. And the requirement, from what I've seen from the state, is you have to have 2 adjoining businesses that have a liquor license that adjoin, can't be separated by a road. So the only area where this would be feasible currently, from what I've researched, would be behind Younger's in the Office Pub in a parking lot. So I don't know if it,
Would that be the only area of travel then?
and, yeah, you're not supposed
Yeah,
to,
you can't go out.
supposed to cross streets, supposed to be designated
Right.
to certain areas where you can paint it on the sidewalk or wherever. Mark, you might have a little more input on this, I'm not sure, but from what I've done research on, because we looked at it in the north end.
Yeah. So
With
you couldn't
park
walk to
and all that.
Vera's.
What's that?
You couldn't walk to Vera's
No.
or go shopping. It's,
No.
you just have to stay in that
Wherever,
social
wherever
district.
that designated area is, you can't cross a street.
You can't go into an establishment that does not sell alcohol, so if you have
Right.
alcohol, you want to go to Vera, she doesn't sell alcohol, or that place doesn't sell alcohol, so you can't go in there.
Right.
So currently, that was the only viable place that I had seen to do it, and it would be a parking lot, which kind of,
Still cool, but. I mean,
Which,
it's better
yeah,
than
I
not.
can't argue with you, and I'm not going to say that you're incorrect. I have not looked at
Yeah,
that, so I
well-
trust you, but I'm saying if they would like to take the time and do the research and look into it and figure out the same thing and still say no, then let them make that choice. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
so, I don't know. Clearly, I know you don't want to be on the committee. Does anybody
No, I
else?
put a lot of time into it already.
And if nobody does, then we say we don't want a liaison on it.
I mean, if they do the groundwork and it's viable, then we can reconsider a liaison.
Yeah,
at
if
that
something's
time.
changed
Sure.
in the last 6, 8 months,
Okay,
then
I'll let them know.
I would be more than happy to.
Move, yeah, no decision, no action taken. Into our social media policy, this was brought back. We had a few changes made. Trustee Rousseau wanted us to look into restating one of the sentences. And in the midst of that conversation, then it was brought up the question of even having social media. So, Trustee Rousseau.
So, yes, I met with President Poznanski to kind of refine it, and as we were talking, I did throw the question out there, do we need social media? We're not a social entity. If we had maybe a beefed-up website, then people could go to one source for information and one outlet for the newest and greatest things going on. So we did have that question. But then, as we were also looking at the social media policy, I suggested that it not just be social media, but it be media policy, because media is considered your website, your newspaper ads, anything within electronics, so it just needs to be a media policy per se, so that the same rules apply to everything. And then my thought was, well, if we have Facebook, why don't we have Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, or whatever else? Should we be adding more social media, or taking it off the plate of whoever it is that has to manage it, which isn't easy? So those are the thoughts.
Who manages it? Majority, I know the clerk, president, and treasurer have access. Who does the majority of the
I-
legwork?
Currently, I do.
Is it,
Usually, generally goes, I do social, Catherine does website.
How do you feel
We
about
both
the
know how to
task?
do each other, but that's just how it goes. Pardon me?
how do you, I mean, is it, how do you feel about the task of posting on Facebook? Do you mind
It's
it?
something that I'm used to. I ran the DDA social media page for over 8 years. So it's something that that's why I generally do it. It's an ease to me. I know how to work the platform. I'm not opposed to not doing it.
Do you feel it's an effective way of reaching out to the community?
Yes and no, because sometimes we go back and forth going,
Right.
oh, should we throw this out there? But, oh, we're going to get a lot of kickback. And so there's just nothing you can
There's
say that
thought
ever
into
is
it.
ever quite good enough or
Right.
like that you don't get. And then what if you don't, then am I beholden or is the village beholden to answer all of that and reply to everybody? And what if we don't? Then this office offended a resident. And there is a lot of angst sometimes around things.
So I guess I would agree, if we can't be fully transparent on what is going on there, you know, and I'm not saying you're hiding anything, but you just said I'm hesitant about maybe posting something because of the
Even
kickback,
simply
and
just
I don't see a reason
the
for
road
that.
update. That goes, okay, what do we give an update? How much of an update? Because yes, we got like 5 good jobs and then you got 5, well, why didn't you or why aren't you or how come?
So, in my opinion, it's like a bulletin board. You don't necessarily, I mean, I think there's an option on Facebook just to don't let anybody comment on your post.
Okay.
It's a
There is
bulletin
an
board.
option.
I think it's important to have it. Facebook's the quickest medium. The website is great. It'd be awesome if there was 24/7 updates, but if, God forbid, something bad happens, everybody goes to Facebook. I think that a lot of people are on it. I think that's the fastest method. If there's a storm, if there's power outages, I just think it's just important to have it. Maybe there are some issues that could be addressed, but I don't think deleting it's necessarily the best course of action.
With reaching out to the community and media, how has the success been with the was it Text My Gov? Has that been successful? And
Yeah.
I don't even have it.
That was a
Continue.
contract that we decided to end. There was
Mhm.
not, in a month, if you got 3 or 4, nothing that a phone call to the police department to say that somebody's lawn has passed the ordinance or
That was the
some sort of
majority
thing. Nobody, well, at least since I've been here, maybe only 2 garbage things have come in that I've seen.
Yeah.
Everybody just knows to call the office and let us know when garbage isn't picked up.
Mhm.
They're really, that was not a very, because what was that, $2,500 a year?
I believe so.
That was not worth that for us at all.
Well, it's been discontinued. That's good.
But I wouldn't be opposed, I do believe that would be a good idea to take out social and encompass media here. We do have plans to do a YouTube channel where we can upload our videos to, the videos of the meetings, that sort of thing. So this would also then apply to that platform if we just use media.
yeah,
So do we want to look at other social media platforms if we find them valuable?
Not unless somebody else wants to run them, because
Right.
I'm not going to be doing TikTok. I'm
I
not
do
going to be
like-
doing
Nolan, I like your
Instagram.
suggestion about just making it more of a bulletin board, get information out there, pertinent
Yeah.
information for village residents and visitors, and
It takes the fear out of these two for having to be, scared of people yelling at them on the
Yeah, it's not a matter of trying to hide something. It's a matter of how, like, did you want to get berated anymore today? I mean, I already got 3 phone calls and then
Yeah.
I'm going to put out this post because apparently people are concerned and they want to know what's going on the road. And we want to let them know, but then we also, well, if we,
Yeah, because social media is inherently social, conversational, back and forth, and I don't think that's necessarily what we intend. So if we want to keep the page, then I am more than happy, we can go back and tweak what we were gonna tweak and
Sure,
follow through.
and turn off comments, is that what you
I think so.
yeah.
can do
Tweak
that?
this media policy.
Yeah, turn off comments, and then we can make this a media policy versus,
That works for me.
okay.
Okay, we will table that.
Use
Hold
of-
on.
No, we got Parks and
Use
Rec.
of public sidewalks.
I think this was
You weren't-
after,
you weren't here
or before you came in.
So, yeah, this is a topic that I added, obviously. Mark, I don't know if you have any input or feedback on this. I just had I'm not gonna even say a handful, 3 residents reach out with concerns regarding these planter boxes, outdoor seating being used on the public sidewalks. And our ordinance and/or, I mean, what's the guidelines on that? I know in the past, when the restaurants did that, it might have been more for liquor consumption and had to come in front of the board for use, permanent use of the village sidewalk. Your thoughts, input?
Well, what you're doing is legal. You have an ordinance that addresses it, and if people comply with the ordinance, they get to do it. And so if you think as a matter of public policy, it's not a good idea, you either amend or rescind your ordinance.
So our current ordinance allows it to be detached from the business.
Your current ordinance, and rather than speculate, we can get it out and read it, but your current ordinance requires that there be, I think it's 3 feet, I might have my distances or measurements inaccurately stated, but you have to allow free passage, and otherwise, you can, at least to my understanding, what the business owners or the building owners, property owners are doing, as long as it complies with the ordinance, it's permitted. And so if your thought or your concern is, well, I don't think as a matter of public policy, we should allow cordoning off of any portion of the public sidewalk, then change your ordinance or rescind it. I mean, that's, to me, it's a public policy matter. It's not a legal matter. The legal template is in place. Your ordinance sets forth what can and cannot be done, and if it is done, it's gotta be done in this manner. And if you say to yourselves, well, yeah, it started out okay, but we don't like where it is now or how it's working now, then you address it by either amending or rescinding your ordinance.
Catherine, I feel you wanna.
Yes,
I can tell.
I think I know what planter boxes you're talking about, because I addressed it with the owner of that said establishment, and I emailed him saying I was unexpectedly out of the office last week for medical. Did you get approval for these planter boxes? And he came in and said, no. I'm like, no, it's still under review by the building department, because he had to submit plans, measurements, and everything. And I did ask him, okay, I'll give you the 24-hour grace period as far as Mike Bomarito and I plan on going out tomorrow and measuring it. But I said, those need to go because they were not approved, and they do look bigger than would be acceptable, especially with the Peach Festival coming up, because at a glance, they are very long and very wide as in proportion to the current sidewalk. So I did ask him to remove those until we can get this hammered out, because they are not approved.
Thank you.
Which enforcement's a different issue
Yeah.
than,
Yeah, no, I think just the ordinance in general, maybe we should look at that and put that on future, and if it's something we're going to allow, should we define it a little bit more firmly as into look, location, size, what's going on, and that it should be something that the village has more of a, the planning commission is what I meant to say, the planning commission has to input and look at it, and maybe even something with the DDA.
That would be nice if it was a little bit more defined.
Yeah. So,
Did we approve the Parks and Recs Kid Fest street closure?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
all right, so can we get that on next month's agenda then? And have a
Do you
copy
want
of
it on this agenda, or did you want to present it to the planning commission first? We could put it on planning commission's agenda for September.
Yeah, I guess we talked to Cindy, or, yeah, if you could, or I can call her, yeah.
Okay.
Let's get on.
And then run that, because I did have some questions with the planner, because they wanted to use their own logos. I'm like, well, that's public property.
Yeah.
And they wanted to use their logo and business advertisement outside of what is allowed in the sign ordinance and temporary ordinance on specific items that are not permitted. So that's going to be another issue along with this discussion.
Thank you for your diligence on that.
Thank you.
No problem. That was an email I sent first thing this morning.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Support?
Motion by Fowler, support by Bartholomew to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Bartholomew.
Who said something?